Morgan Steele had never been afraid of anything in her entire life, and she wasn't about to start now, not with the skyline of Manhattan glittering beneath her penthouse windows like a kingdom forged under her heel. She stood in silence, bathed in the cold shine of the city lights, arms crossed as she listened to the muffled voices echoing through her private office. Her board of directors waited behind the door like restless vultures, whispering her name with the mix of dread and admiration she had cultivated over the years. She was 32, worth $9 billion, and feared in every boardroom from Wall Street to Singapore. But fear wasn't the problem tonight. Control was. Or rather, the fact that she was being forced to relinquish a tiny fragment of it. The death threats had escalated. First emails, then private messages, then handwritten letters delivered straight to the building, each one more grotesque than the last. "If you sign that deal, I will take your life before you take our jobs," the latest note had read in sharp red ink, along with a photo of her entering her car 2 nights before. The board insisted they were credible. Morgan insisted they were irrelevant. But a billion-dollar merger was on the line, and the board didn't trust her instincts when her life was the bargaining chip. She hated that. She hated needing anything or anyone. She hated being told what to do even more. And today, she was being told she needed a bodyguard. A full-time one. One who wouldn't leave her side. "This is absurd," she said to the glass, her reflection cold enough to frost. "I don't need protection. You need to open the damn door," a voice called from the hallway. Morgan's jaw tightened. She wasn't expecting that voice. The board had hired someone. Without her approval. Without even informing her. Typical. She pivoted sharply, heels clicking against the marble floor as she strode to the door, yanking it open with enough force to startle the man closest to it. And that was when she saw her. Riley Carter. Leaning casually against the wall like she owned it, one ankle crossed over the other, dark hair pulled into a low, practical knot, half her forearm tattoos visible beneath the rolled sleeves of her black security uniform. Shoulders broad. Stance steady. Eyes razor-sharp. A faint scar cut across her right eyebrow, the kind earned in a life much rougher than Morgan's boardroom battles. Riley didn't flinch under Morgan's glare. Didn't look impressed. Didn't look intimidated. In fact, she looked bored. "You're Morgan Steele," Riley said, pushing off the wall with a slow, unhurried movement that made Morgan's blood heat with irritation. "I expected taller." Morgan's eyes narrowed to knives. The board winced collectively. "And you are?" Morgan asked, voice smooth and lethal. "Your bodyguard," Riley replied. "Starting now." Morgan let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "No. Absolutely not. I don't do babysitters." "Good," Riley said without missing a beat. "Because I don't do babies." A strangled gasp rose from one of the executives. Riley didn't care. Morgan stepped closer until she was mere inches from Riley, her ice blue eyes drilling into Riley's dark ones. "Listen carefully," Morgan said, voice low enough to chill bone. "I don't need you. And I refuse to be followed around by someone who thinks she's entitled to be in my space." "I don't want to be in your space," Riley replied. "Trust me. But someone wants to kill you, and unfortunately for both of us, I signed a contract that says I can't let that happen." Morgan scoffed. "Then unsign it." "That's not how contracts work," Riley said. "Not in my world." Morgan hated how steady Riley's voice was. Stark. Flat. Unshakable. Riley didn't posture. Didn't brag. Didn't flirt. She simply existed with the self-assurance of someone who had seen things, the real kind of darkness that money couldn't buy or fight. And Morgan hated how her presence filled the room, shifting its balance. "I want her gone," Morgan told the board. Riley raised a hand. "Nope. Not how this works. You hired security. I'm the best. Congratulations. You're stuck with me." Morgan's jaw twitched. "You work for me. I give the orders." Riley stepped into her space in a movement so smooth Morgan barely processed it until Riley's breath was warm against her cheek. "I don't take orders," Riley murmured. "I take assessments. Risks. Threat levels." Her voice dropped even lower. And right now, you're the biggest liability in this room. Morgan's heart skipped, just once, an involuntary stutter she hoped no one heard. Riley turned away before Morgan could respond. "I'll be outside," she said. "Try not to get shot in the next 30 seconds. Morgan stared after her, stunned, furious, and, for the first time in years, off balance. The board erupted in chatter, praising Riley, insisting this was necessary, that Morgan should cooperate. Morgan stormed past them, heels striking lightning against the floor. She pushed open the hallway door, expecting Riley to be waiting with some smug expression. But Riley wasn't leaning on the wall anymore. She was standing in full tactical stance, eyes locked on something down the corridor. Something, or someone Morgan hadn't seen yet. "Stop," Riley ordered, voice sharp as a snapping wire. Morgan froze behind her. Riley's hand hovered near her concealed holster. "Show me your hands," Riley called out. A figure turned the corner slowly. A janitor, elderly, confused. Riley lowered her stance, but didn't relax fully. "Sorry," the man mumbled, hurrying past them. Riley didn't move until he was safely inside a custodial closet. Only then did she turn to Morgan. "That," Riley said, "is what I'm here for. Threat evaluation. Rapid response. Keeping you alive." Morgan lifted her chin. "He wasn't a threat." "You didn't know that." "I assessed. You guessed," Riley cut in. "Don't guess. Let me do my job." Morgan bristled. "You aren't the only competent person in this building. You're not even the most competent person in this hallway," Riley replied. Morgan's nostrils flared. Riley looked almost amused. "Almost. Relax, Steele," Riley said. "I'm not here to make your life miserable. You're doing a magnificent job anyway. I'm here to protect you," Riley continued. "Even if you don't think you need it." Morgan stepped closer. "I don't need you. Your death threats disagree." Morgan held Riley's gaze. Riley held it right back. And for one blistering second, the cold CEO and the battle-scarred bodyguard stood locked in a silent war of wills. A war neither had expected, a war neither knew would soon unravel both of them. A phone buzzed in Morgan's hand. She answered without breaking eye contact. "Ms. Steele," her assistant said shakily. Another letter just arrived. Riley's jaw tensed. Morgan's lips parted. "Read it," she commanded. Her assistant hesitated. "Then, it says, the countdown begins tonight." Riley moved instantly, grabbing Morgan's wrist and pulling her backward, her body snapping into protective mode. "We're leaving. Now." "Riley, now." For the first time in her life, Morgan didn't argue. Because the look in Riley's eyes wasn't boredom anymore. It was danger. And something worse, recognition. As if Riley knew, in a way Morgan didn't yet, that this was only the beginning. Riley Carter had been assigned to protect high-profile targets before, politicians, tech moguls, heirs to foreign empires, but she had never met anyone as infuriatingly impossible as Morgan Steele. Within the first 20 minutes of escorting her from the building, Riley knew two things with visceral certainty. First, that whoever was targeting Morgan wasn't bluffing, and second, that Morgan Steele was going to make this job hell. The moment they entered the underground parking garage, Riley pushed Morgan behind her, scanning every shadow, every car, every sound. Her movements were surgical, honed by years of training. Morgan, instead of listening like a rational human being, rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic," Morgan said. Riley shot her a cold look. "Someone wants you dead." "That's dramatic." Morgan crossed her arms. "You don't need to shield me like a Victorian damsel. I'm capable of walking to my own car without supervision." "You'd be dead by now if I'd let you walk on your own," Riley said, scanning behind a pillar. "Stop moving." Morgan froze. Not because Riley told her to, no. Morgan Steele obeyed no one. She froze because Riley's hand was suddenly against her waist, pushing her firmly but carefully behind a concrete column as a sound echoed across the garage. Morgan tensed, not out of fear, but from the shock of being touched, repositioned, protected. Riley looked over her shoulder. "Don't move." Morgan spoke, through clenched teeth. Touch me again without asking, and I will. Shoo, Riley hissed. Morgan's eyes widened. No one shushed her. No one. But Riley wasn't ignoring her out of disrespect. Riley was assessing, listening, calculating. A shadow shifted beneath a parked sedan 20 feet away. Riley's gun was out in a second. Stay here. Morgan grabbed Riley's wrist. Not hard. Just enough. You're not going alone. Riley looked at Morgan like she was absurd. Yes, I am. No, Morgan said, her voice low, sharp. You're not. Morgan, Riley said, exasperated. You don't have a weapon. You don't have training. You're not going with me to confront a possible threat. Morgan's jaw clenched. I'm not hiding behind a column while someone else risks themselves for me. That's literally what bodyguards are for. Morgan glared. Riley glared back. For half a second, Riley looked like she might actually drag Morgan back to the elevator. Instead, she grabbed Morgan's hand. A shock of heat passed between them and placed it firmly on Morgan's own chest. Feel that, she whispered. Morgan blinked. Feel what? Your heartbeat. Morgan frowned, confused. Riley leaned closer. If you walk into danger, that stops. My job is to keep that going. Riley released her hand. Morgan stood frozen, breath caught somewhere between anger and something else she refused to name. Riley moved toward the shadow. Morgan stayed behind the pillar, but her eyes stayed locked on Riley the entire time. Riley crouched, checking under the vehicle. A cat hissed and bolted out, startling both of them. Riley exhaled slowly, holstering her weapon. False alarm. Morgan stepped out, brushing imaginary dust from her suit. I told you there was nothing. Riley gave her a look that clearly meant don't test me. Let's get you home. Riley escorted Morgan to a sleek black SUV instead of the CEO's personal car. Morgan frowned. That's not my vehicle. It is now. I don't appreciate decisions being made for me. And I don't appreciate you dying on my watch, Riley shot back. Morgan's lips twitched at the edge. Not quite amusement, not quite annoyance, but something dangerously close to fascination. They got into the car, Riley driving at a speed that was both very legal and very protective. Morgan typed furiously on her phone. You realize I have meetings tonight. Not anymore. I didn't authorize that. Your board did. I don't care what my board did. Riley snatched the phone from Morgan's hand. Morgan gasped an actual gasp. Give that back. No, I wasn't finished with my message. You're done for the night, Riley said. You're off-grid. Absolutely not. Morgan, Riley said, in a tone that halted Morgan's breath. Whoever sent that message said the countdown begins tonight. Which means something is happening tonight. I'm not letting you walk into it blindly. That merger does not matter, Riley interrupted. Your life matters. Morgan slowly turned her head toward Riley. She wasn't used to people telling her what mattered. And she certainly wasn't used to someone saying her life meant anything beyond stocks and quarterly reports. Don't pretend you care, Morgan said finally. This is just your job. Riley's jaw tightened. Her hands clenched on the steering wheel. That's where you're wrong. Morgan swallowed. Hard. Riley didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. The weight of her words settled in the car. Alive. Heavy. Charged. When they reached Morgan's penthouse building, Riley swept the lobby, the elevator, the hallway. Morgan followed silently. When they entered the penthouse, Riley closed the door and locked it. Twice. Then she turned to Morgan. Give me a tour. A tour? Morgan scoffed. This is not an Airbnb. I need to know every entrance, window, and blind spot, Riley said, already moving past her. Show me. Morgan crossed her arms. I don't like being ordered around. And I don't like protecting someone who hides critical information. Morgan opened her mouth to retort, but then Riley stepped into her personal space. Again. Close enough that Morgan felt heat radiate from her body. I need to know this place, Riley said quietly, so I can keep you safe. Morgan's throat tightened. She hated how those words made her stomach flip. She hated how Riley's presence made her pulse spike. She hated, deeply, that her body reacted before her brain could shut it down.
Fine, Morgan said.
Follow me. Riley did. But she didn't walk behind Morgan. She walked slightly beside her, slightly in front, always angled to intercept a threat that wasn't there. Morgan noticed. And she noticed that she noticed. Morgan showed her the kitchen, the living room, the office, the balcony, the guest rooms. Riley kept asking questions. Smart ones. Strategic ones. Does this window lock? Has anyone else had a key? How often do you use this balcony? Morgan began to answer automatically, irritation shifting into something more complex. Respect, maybe. Or something quieter. Something warmer. They ended in Morgan's bedroom. Riley scanned it thoroughly.
Too thoroughly.
Her eyes passed over the king bed, the nightstand, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the glass closet doors. She lingered a fraction of a second too long. Morgan felt it, like static in the air. This is the safest room in the penthouse, Riley said. So, you'll sleep here tonight. Morgan blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. And where will you be sleeping? Riley shrugged. On the couch. Or not at all. That's ridiculous. I don't sleep much. Not my problem. It is if I'm protecting you. Morgan stepped closer. You can't dictate where I sleep. Riley stepped even closer. I can if someone is trying to kill you.
They were inches apart now.
Close enough that Morgan could smell the faint hint of steel and cedar on Riley's skin. Close enough that Riley's breath brushed Morgan's cheek. Close enough that something inside Morgan, something frozen for years, cracked. I don't need protection, Morgan said softly. You do, Riley murmured, even if you'll never admit it. Something flickered between them. Something volatile. Dangerous.
New.
Then, a sharp noise shattered the moment. Glass breaking. Riley spun, gun drawn before Morgan even processed it. Stay behind me, Riley snapped. Morgan's chest tightened. What was that? Riley didn't answer. Another sound echoed. A second crack. This time, Morgan heard it clearly. A window breaking on the opposite side of the penthouse. Riley positioned herself in front of Morgan, body low, weapon ready, eyes burning. Get down, Riley ordered. But Morgan couldn't move. Not from fear. Morgan Steele did not fear. But because for the first time, something real, something lethal, something unseen, had entered her perfect world. Riley moved slowly, silently, toward the sound. Morgan followed closely, pulse pounding. Riley glanced back at her once. Just once, her eyes sharp but softening for a split second when they landed on Morgan. Stay close, Riley whispered. Morgan nodded. They turned the corner, just in time to see the shattered window and the silver dart lodged in the wall. Not a bullet. A warning. And, attached to the dart, a note. Riley read it.
Tensed.
Slowly handed it to Morgan. Morgan's blood ran cold. 1 day left. Riley didn't breathe for a full 3 seconds after reading the note. 3 seconds where her expression changed so subtly, so dangerously, that Morgan felt the shift like a temperature drop in the room. Riley wasn't just alert now. She was lethal. She tucked the note into her pocket, turned her body slightly in front of Morgan, and scanned every angle of the shattered window with eyes that moved too sharply to be human. Step back, Riley ordered. Morgan's spine straightened automatically. No, Riley shot her a glance, the kind meant to warn, to command, to override. Morgan didn't budge. Riley inhaled slowly, as if recalibrating her patience. Morgan, Riley said, voice tight and low. That dart was fired from a neighboring building at an angle that should have hit your chest if the shooter hadn't pulled it at the last second. That means whoever sent it could have killed you. But they didn't. They wanted you to know they got inside your perimeter. They wanted you to feel hunted. I need you to move back. Now. Morgan swallowed, the truth sinking in with a chill she didn't want to acknowledge. You think the message is for me. It is for you. Riley corrected sharply. Everything is for you. And whoever did this is escalating. Morgan's heart thudded harder. She didn't like this version of Riley, the one who was no longer annoyed or sarcastic, but deadly serious. Dangerous. focused entirely on keeping her alive. Riley holstered her gun long enough to pull her phone, speaking into it with a voice so sharp it could cut steel. Lock down the perimeter. I want every roof, every vantage point, every exposed line of sight covered.
Now.
No excuses. She snapped the phone shut and turned back to Morgan. We're leaving. Leaving. Morgan echoed. This is my home. Not tonight, Riley said. It's compromised. I'm not running from a broken window, Morgan hissed. Riley stepped closer, invading her space again, but this time with a fire behind her eyes Morgan hadn't seen before. You don't understand, Riley said, her voice trembling from anger she was barely containing. This isn't just a threat. It's a countdown. And that means whoever is after you isn't just trying to intimidate you.
They're planning something.
Something big. Something soon. I'm not weak, Morgan shot back. Riley's nostrils flared. I never said you were weak. I said you were a target. Morgan stiffened. The word hit harder than she expected.
Target.
She had never been prey before. Never. Pack a bag, Riley ordered. 15 minutes. Morgan almost laughed. Riley, I don't know what universe you live in, but I don't take orders in my own penthouse. Riley stepped even closer, eyes burning. You do when someone is trying to end your life. For the first time, Morgan's voice faltered. You're serious? Deadly, Riley said, eyes softening for a fraction of a second. I'm not losing you.
The air changed.
Thickened. Something passed between them. Dangerous. Electric, unspoken. Morgan broke the eye contact first. Fine, she whispered. 15 minutes. Riley nodded once, sharp and efficient, then turned away. Morgan walked to her bedroom, grabbing the nearest suitcase. Her hands trembled. She hated that. She forced them still. She wouldn't give fear the satisfaction of settling into her bones. But as she packed, she felt it creeping anyway, cold fingers whispering along her spine. When she returned to the living room, Riley was already armed and geared, speaking to someone on the phone. I want a safe route. Confirm the secondary exit. We're not using the main elevator. Morgan raised an eyebrow. Riley ended the call. We go now. You look like you're preparing for war, Morgan murmured. Riley met her eyes. I am. They moved through the penthouse, Riley leading with a silent, predatory grace. She checked corners, mirrors, shadows. Morgan realized she had never actually seen Riley at full capacity before.
It was terrifying.
And mesmerizing. At the service elevator, Riley pressed the button, then immediately grabbed Morgan's waist, pulling her back. Morgan stiffened, heat flaring through her from the sudden contact. Riley. Shoo. Riley pressed her ear to the elevator door. Nothing. She opened it slowly, gun raised. Empty. Let's go. They descended in silence, thick, tense, almost suffocating. Halfway down, the elevator jolted violently. Lights flickered. Morgan grabbed the rail, swallowing panic. What was that? Someone tried to cut power, Riley muttered. We're moving to manual override. Meaning? Meaning we're stuck for a moment but safe. Morgan exhaled shakily. Riley glanced at her. You okay?
Perfectly, Morgan lied.
Riley stepped closer. You don't look perfectly. Are you analyzing me now? Morgan snapped. I analyze everything, Riley replied. Especially threats. I'm not a threat, Morgan said. Riley's eyes darkened. No, she whispered. You're something else entirely. Morgan's pulse stuttered. The lights flickered again, then stabilized. Riley hit the emergency release, and the doors opened into a dim service corridor. Stay close, she said. Morgan stayed close. Too close. Every step down the corridor, every sharp turn, Morgan could feel Riley's presence like a shield, like a wall of heat, like gravity. When they reached the garage, Riley paused, scanning everything. The SUV was 10 feet away. On 3, Riley murmured.
1.
2. A gunshot shattered the silence. Riley slammed into Morgan, driving her to the ground, covering her with her body. Stay down. Riley roared. Morgan's breath punched out of her lungs as Riley held her pinned, protecting every inch of her. A second gunshot rang out, this one ricocheting off a pillar inches from Riley's back. Riley rolled off Morgan, positioning herself as a barrier and firing 2 precise shots toward the attacker. Move! Riley grabbed Morgan's hand and sprinted behind a concrete column. Morgan gasped, adrenaline flooding her veins. Riley pressed her back against the pillar, breath harsh. Shooter on the upper level, she hissed. High caliber. Professional. Morgan tried to speak, but her voice caught. Riley turned to her, eyes scanning her quickly. Are you hit? No, Morgan whispered. You. Riley smirked. Not today. Another shot rang out, hitting the pillar behind them. Morgan flinched. Riley grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at her. Focus on me, Riley commanded. Not the bullets. Easy for you to say, Morgan breathed. Riley leaned in, her voice dropping to something devastatingly calm. I need you alive, Steele. Stay with me. The words anchored Morgan. Riley peeked around the pillar, firing twice.
He's moving, Riley said.
Trying to flank. Morgan's heart thundered. What do we do? Riley grabbed her hand again. We run. On my signal. Morgan nodded, breath shallow. Riley's fingers tightened around hers. Ready. Morgan wasn't, but she said, yes. Go. They sprinted. Gunfire erupted behind them. Riley pushed Morgan behind another car, returning fire. Get down. Morgan ducked. Riley moved like water, like a weapon, like instinct. Her body was a shield, her mind a battlefield. Morgan realized suddenly, painfully, Riley wasn't protecting her because it was her job. Riley was protecting her because she cared. And that terrified Morgan more than the bullets. Riley fired again. Then silence. Heavy. Ominous. Riley exhaled. He's gone. Or repositioning. Morgan's voice was tight. We can't stay here. We won't, Riley said. But first, she grabbed Morgan's face, gently, impossibly gently considering the chaos. Look at me. Are you hurt? Morgan shook her head. Riley's thumb brushed her cheek, just barely. But it was enough to send a shiver down Morgan's spine. Riley froze. Morgan froze. Their faces inches apart, breaths tangled, danger pulsing around them, and something even more dangerous pulsing between them. Then Riley pulled back abruptly. Let's move. They ran to the SUV, dove inside, and sped out of the garage at full speed. Only when they were on the freeway, lights blurring past the windows, did Morgan finally speak. Riley kept her eyes on the road. Yeah. Morgan swallowed. Thank you. Riley glanced at her. Just once. Enough to reveal something raw beneath the steel. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Morgan's chest tightened. And for the first time in her life, she believed someone. Riley didn't slow down until they were well past the city limits, the skyline shrinking into distant, glittering daggers behind them. She kept her hands steady on the wheel, shoulders tense, jaw clenched, her eyes flicking between the rearview mirror and the road ahead with the hypervigilance of someone who had survived too many ambushes to believe danger was ever truly gone. Morgan sat beside her, still trying to steady her own breathing. She had never been shot at before, not like this, not with bullets tearing past her body, not with someone physically shielding her with their own life. Every time she blinked, she saw Riley throwing her to the ground, felt the weight of Riley's body pinning hers, heard the rage in Riley's voice, stay down, felt the tremble in Riley's hands only when the threat had passed. It rattled her, more than she wanted to admit, more than she was prepared for. She turned her head toward Riley. The woman looked carved from stone, expression unyielding, focus razor-sharp. Where are we going? Morgan finally asked. Riley didn't answer immediately. It felt intentional, calculated. Somewhere safe, Riley said. Somewhere no one knows about. My security team, compromised, Riley interrupted. Your penthouse compromised. The garage compromised. Someone is inside your system. Inside my what? Morgan snapped. Inside your security infrastructure, Riley said flatly. meaning someone has access to your movements, your routines, your staff, your safe routes, and every piece of tech meant to protect you. Morgan's blood ran cold. She prided herself on control, on planning, on precision. But someone had outplayed her. You think it's internal? I know it is, Riley said. The shooter knew exactly when we'd be in that garage. That wasn't coincidence. That was timing. Morgan clenched her fists. I'll find who it is. No, Riley said firmly. You'll stay alive. That's your job until I secure the rest. You're giving me orders again. And you're still alive again, Riley countered. So, maybe try listening. Morgan bristled, but she didn't argue. Not this time. Something about being shot at, something about Riley throwing herself into danger without hesitation, had shifted something inside her. The car veered off the main highway, down a narrower, unlit road lined with dense forest. Where are we? Morgan whispered. Almost there. They drove another 5 minutes until Riley pulled off onto a barely visible gravel path that disappeared into the woods. After a long stretch of darkness and silence, something appeared between the trees. A cabin. Remote. Hidden. Unremarkable. This is your safe house? Morgan asked skeptically. Riley parked the SUV and finally turned to her, eyes steady. This is where no one will ever think to look for you. Morgan exhaled sharply. It's rustic. Cute, Riley deadpanned. Get out. Morgan glared but stepped out of the vehicle. The air was colder here, crisp pine filling her lungs. Riley scanned the perimeter, weapon drawn, posture alert. Inside, she said. Morgan walked in, expecting the cabin to be dusty, abandoned, falling apart. It wasn't. It was simple, bare wooden floors, reinforced windows, emergency supplies neatly stacked, a fireplace cleaned and ready, a small kitchen with military-precise organization. It felt intentional. Lived in. You come here often, Morgan said quietly. Riley didn't answer. She locked the door behind them, secured the windows, checked the exits. Finally, she holstered her gun and turned to Morgan. We'll stay here until I figure out who breached your security. And how long will that take? Morgan demanded. As long as it takes to keep you breathing. I have a company to run. You have a life to keep, Riley shot back. Your company can survive 2 days without you. 2 days? Morgan's voice sharpened. You expect me to. Riley stepped toward her. Not aggressively, but with the kind of steady presence that filled the room. Morgan, Riley said softly, soft in a way Morgan hadn't heard from her before. You almost died tonight. Morgan opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. Riley's voice softened further. Dangerously so. And I almost didn't get to you fast enough. Morgan's chest tightened. Hard. You did, she whispered. You always do. Riley held her gaze. Something flickered between them again, hot and sharp, like a spark landing on dry skin. Riley cleared her throat and stepped back. I'll secure the rest of the cabin. Sit down. Don't touch anything. Morgan lifted her chin. I'm not a child. Then stop acting like one, Riley said before disappearing into another room. Morgan clenched her fists, about to follow her and give her an earful, when she stopped. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, she realized something. She wasn't angry. Not really. She was shaken, vulnerable, exposed. And Riley was the only thing holding the ground steady beneath her feet. When Riley returned, Morgan was still standing where she'd left her. Riley raised an eyebrow. You don't sit, do you? I choose not to. Sit, Riley repeated. Or I carry you. Morgan's breath caught. Hard. Riley's eyes darkened for a fraction of a second, like she realized what she'd just said, and then she turned away, pretending it hadn't happened. Morgan sat. Slowly. Riley sat across from her at the small wooden table. Their knees nearly touched. Riley set her gun on the table. Morgan tensed. Relax. It's safety protocol. Your safety protocol is intense. So, is the threat level. Morgan looked at the weapon, then at Riley. Why do you care this much? Riley's eyes flickered. Just a moment. It's my job. That's not an answer. Riley looked away. Morgan leaned forward. Riley. Because someone has to, Riley whispered. Morgan's throat tightened. You don't even know me. I know enough, Riley said. I know you pretend you're made of ice. I know you pretend nothing touches you. I know you pretend you don't need anyone. Riley's voice dropped. But you're wrong. Morgan felt it like a blow. You don't know anything about me, Morgan said quietly, almost defensively. I know you're shaking, Riley said. Morgan stiffened, furious, until she realized Riley wasn't mocking her. Riley's voice softened. Fear isn't weakness. I'm not afraid. Then you're shaking because you're cold? Morgan looked down. Her hands were trembling. She hadn't even noticed. Riley reached out slowly, carefully. May I? She asked. Morgan hated that she whispered. Yes. Riley took Morgan's hands in hers, wrapping them gently.
Warm, firm, steady.
Morgan's breath hitched. Riley's thumbs brushed Morgan's knuckles in a soothing rhythm. Breathe, Riley murmured. And Morgan did.
Slowly, deeply, for the first time since the attack.
Riley didn't look away from her, and Morgan didn't pull back. The moment stretched between them. Heavy, electric, startlingly intimate. Too intimate. Morgan pulled her hands away suddenly, standing. I'll get some water. Riley leaned back, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath too.
Sure.
Morgan walked into the kitchen, steadying herself on the counter. Her heart was slamming against her ribs. She poured a glass of water. Didn't drink it. Just held it. Riley watched her from the table, eyes soft in a way Morgan wasn't ready for. Before either of them could speak, Riley's phone vibrated sharply. She answered instantly. Carter. Morgan watched her face. Riley went pale. How long ago?
A pause.
Riley's jaw clenched hard. Send me the footage.
Now.
She hung up. Morgan walked toward her. What happened? Riley stood up slowly, eyes burning with fury. Your office was breached. Morgan's heart dropped. What? Someone broke in. Not to steal. Riley swallowed. To plant something. Plant what? Morgan whispered. A bomb. Morgan's breath froze. What? It was in the boardroom. Morgan staggered backward. But why? Who? Riley stepped closer. Morgan, they left a message. Morgan's voice was barely audible. What message? Riley's eyes locked onto hers. They want you to come back to Manhattan. Come back. Morgan shook her head. Why? Riley exhaled shakily. Because the bomb wasn't meant to kill your board. Morgan's stomach turned. It was meant to lure someone in. Who? Riley grabbed her shoulders. You. Morgan felt the room tilt. Someone didn't just want her dead. They wanted her back in the city. They wanted her exposed. Accessible. And they were willing to level an entire building to get her there. Why me? Morgan whispered. Riley held her tighter. Because whoever this is, they're not after your company. Riley's voice trembled. They're after you. Morgan met Riley's eyes, and finally, fully understood. This wasn't business. This wasn't rivalry. This wasn't about power. This was personal. And she had no idea why. But she was about to find out. Morgan didn't realize she was shaking until Riley's hands tightened on her shoulders, grounding her, pulling her back from the edge of panic she refused to name. The word bomb kept echoing in her head, repeating itself, crashing against her ribs like a wave of cold needles. Her boardroom. Her building. Her world. Morgan, look at me, Riley said, her voice low but firm. Morgan lifted her eyes. Riley wasn't being sarcastic or smug or superior. She looked furious. And terrified. Not of the threat. Of losing Morgan. The realization hit Morgan so sharply, she almost stepped back. Riley took a breath and spoke slowly, as if choosing each word with violent care. We are not going back to Manhattan. Morgan scoffed because scoffing was easier than collapsing. You don't get to decide. The hell I don't. Riley cut in, stepping closer. Someone planted a bomb in the place you spend half your life. You think that was random? No, Morgan said, voice trembling despite her efforts. I think it was calculated. Exactly, Riley snapped. Calculated to lure you. Not your board. Not your staff.
You.
And you want to walk back into their hands. I want answers, Morgan shot back. And you're supposed to help me get them. Riley clenched her jaw. Not at the cost of your life. I'm not fragile, Morgan hissed. Riley leaned in until their noses almost touched. Fragile?
No.
Stupid? Yes. Morgan inhaled sharply, heat rushing to her cheeks. Not from embarrassment but rage.
You don't get to call me that.
Then stop acting like it, Riley said through gritted teeth. Someone is orchestrating this like a damn chess match, and you're standing on the board waving your arms. Morgan shoved Riley's hands off her. I am not used to being hidden away like some helpless doll while someone else handles my problems. Riley's eyes burned. This isn't a hostile negotiation. This is someone trying to tear out your heartbeat. Why? Morgan demanded, voice cracking. Why me? Why now? Riley exhaled hard, frustration pouring through her posture. I don't know yet. Then let me help you figure it out. Riley shook her head. You are the target, Morgan. You can also be the investigator. I built an empire by solving problems. This isn't a problem, Riley said. It's a threat. Same thing. No, Riley growled. You don't negotiate with a gun pointed at your skull. Their faces were inches apart again, and suddenly the air between them felt like electricity. Raw, hungry, dangerous. Riley noticed it too. Her chest rose sharply. She looked away for a brief second, like the tension physically hurt her to acknowledge. Morgan studied her face, the rigid jawline, the dangerous calm slipping at the edges. Why do you care? Morgan whispered before she could swallow the question. Why does it matter so much to you? Riley froze. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. She didn't look away this time. Because I'm responsible for you. No, Morgan said softly, stepping closer. Not just that. You're affected. I can see it. Riley's voice dropped to something hoarse. Of course I'm affected. Someone tried to kill you tonight. People have tried to kill me before, Morgan replied. Riley glared. Not on my watch. Morgan's breath faltered. Riley continued, voice low and fierce. When I took this job, I accepted the possibility that I might die doing it. But I didn't accept the possibility of you dying under my protection. And why does that scare you? Morgan whispered. Riley's jaw clenched. She looked at Morgan like she was a question Riley wasn't supposed to solve but desperately wanted to. Don't do this, Riley murmured. Do what? Make me say things I shouldn't. Morgan's pulse hammered against her ribs. Then don't hide them. Riley inhaled sharply like Morgan had crossed some invisible line. Maybe she had. Maybe she wanted to. Maybe she needed to. The tension between them crackled like exposed wire. Riley stepped forward. Morgan didn't step back. They were close enough now that Morgan felt the heat radiating from Riley's body, close enough that Riley's breath brushed her lips when she spoke. Morgan, Riley whispered, if you keep pushing me like this. Morgan held her gaze. What? Riley exhaled shakily. I won't be able to stop. Morgan's heart slammed. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe neither of them did. But suddenly their foreheads were almost touching until a loud vibration buzzed on the table. Riley snapped back, ripping her phone from the surface. Morgan stumbled a step away, breath erratic, cheeks burning. Riley answered the phone with a sharp Carter. Silence. Riley stiffened. Then her eyes widened with a kind of recognition Morgan had never seen before. What did you say? Riley demanded. Morgan watched her face change. Anger, confusion, disbelief, something like dread. Send me the file, Riley said.
Now.
She hung up slowly, breathing unevenly. Morgan stepped closer. What happened? Riley looked at her, eyes dark with something cold. Something personal. The bomb wasn't the only thing they found. Morgan felt her stomach twist. What else? Riley hesitated, not long, but long enough for Morgan to notice. A file, Riley said finally. Hidden inside the building server. Attached to the security log. A file about what? Not what? Riley corrected. Who? Morgan's voice dropped.
Who?
Riley swallowed hard. You. Morgan's heart lurched. Me? Personal details, Riley said. Private.
Deep.
Things no one should have access to. Morgan's throat tightened. Like. Riley didn't answer. Riley, Morgan whispered. Tell me. Riley paced once, twice. She looked like she wanted to punch the wall. Finally, she stopped in front of Morgan, eyes burning. The file mentioned someone. Morgan felt cold.
Who?
Riley took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was almost gentle, almost apologetic. The name in the file is Catherine Hale. Morgan blinked. The room went silent. Her breath froze. She hadn't heard that name in years. She thought she'd buried it. Buried her. Buried everything connected to her.
Morgan.
Riley pressed. Who is Catherine Hale? Morgan stepped back, as if struck. I don't want to talk about her. Riley's eyes narrowed. Morgan, someone used her name to breach your building. To access your staff list. To plan a bomb. You need to tell me who she is. No, Morgan snapped. Riley stepped closer. Morgan. I said a no. Morgan's voice cracked, not with anger. With something raw. Riley froze. The air shifted. Morgan took a shaky breath. She never raised her voice. She never lost control. She never let the past move her. But that name was a knife. Riley softened her tone. Morgan, I can't protect you if you don't let me in. Morgan closed her eyes. When she opened them, something inside her had changed.
Fallen.
Morgan swallowed. She was my ex. Riley stilled. Her expression unreadable. Morgan breathed shallowly. She was also my former business partner. And she betrayed me. Riley's jaw flexed.
How?
Morgan shook her head. I'm not discussing it. Morgan. This is not optional, Morgan whispered fiercely. I can't. I won't. Revisit that part of my life. Riley studied her.
Slowly.
Intently. Is she capable of this? Morgan looked away. I don't know. Riley took a step closer. Do you still trust her? Morgan's voice barely escaped her. I don't trust anyone. Riley exhaled. Then tell me one thing. Morgan met her eyes reluctantly. Did you ever love her? Morgan froze. Riley watched her. Waiting.
Questioning.
Needing the truth. And Morgan finally whispered. I thought I did. Riley nodded once, sharply, like she had braced herself for the answer. Then I need to find her, Riley said. And you need to stay here. No, Morgan said. I'm going. No, you're not, Riley growled. I won't let you walk into the arms of someone who may be trying to kill you. You don't get to decide that, Morgan said. Riley stepped forward, fury and fear mixing in her eyes. The hell I don't. Morgan opened her mouth. Riley grabbed her wrist. Because I'm not losing you, Riley whispered, voice breaking just slightly. Morgan froze. Their eyes locked. Heat surged. Fear tangled with desire, tension with tenderness. Morgan's breath trembled. Riley didn't let go. Stay where I can protect you, Riley whispered, because if something happens to you, I will never forgive myself. Morgan's heart cracked open. But before she could respond, the cabin lights flickered. Riley spun toward the door, eyes widening. Morgan, move. What? Someone's here. A shadow passed by the window. And this time, it wasn't a warning. It was the beginning. The light flickered again, a sharp stutter that made Morgan's breath freeze mid-chest. Riley didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't even shift her weight. She simply lifted her chin by a hair, her entire body tensing in a way Morgan had never seen outside the garage ambush. Every muscle sharpened, every breath measured. Riley Carter wasn't just alert now. She was in full combat mode. Morgan barely inhaled before Riley grabbed her arm and yanked her behind the kitchen counter so fast the world tilted. Stay low, Riley whispered, voice razor-thin and lethal. Morgan's heart slammed. Riley, shoo. Riley pressed a finger to Morgan's lips. The gesture wasn't tender. It wasn't gentle. It was a command so powerful that Morgan felt it all the way down her spine. The room went silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that meant someone else was breathing inside the walls. A heavy thud echoed outside the cabin. Riley's hand tightened around the weapon at her thigh. Another thud. Closer. Morgan leaned slightly to peer over the counter, but Riley grabbed her wrist and silently forced her down again, glaring. Morgan's cheeks burned with a mix of fear and indignation. Riley mouthed, "Don't." Morgan stayed still. A shadow passed the living room window. Slow. Deliberate. Then a second shadow. Morgan's pulse thrummed. "How many?" she whispered. Riley didn't look away from the window. "Two outside." "Just two." "Two that want me to know they're here," Riley murmured. "Which means there are at least three more I can't see." Morgan's stomach twisted. Riley reached behind her back and pulled a small black device from her belt. Morgan frowned. "What is that?" "Motion jammer." Riley flicked it on. "It keeps them from tracking where we move inside." The lights flickered again, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the cabin. Morgan jerked. "Riley." Riley's hand found her in the dark, warm and grounding, sliding along Morgan's arm until her fingers wrapped securely around Morgan's wrist. "I'm right here," Riley whispered. "I won't lose you in the dark." Morgan felt her breath catch. Riley gently pulled her closer. A soft clink sounded at the front door. Metal meeting metal. "They're picking the lock," Riley said, barely audible. Morgan's heart hammered. "What do we do?" Riley leaned in so close Morgan felt her breath at her ear. "We wait." The door creaked open with an agonizing slowness. A boot stepped onto the cabin floor. Another. No voices. No hesitation. Professionals. Riley squeezed Morgan's wrist. Once, then released her. Morgan inhaled sharply, suddenly cold without the contact. Riley moved silently through the dark, positioning herself between Morgan and the entryway. Morgan couldn't see her, but she felt her, every shift of weight, every breath. Another man entered. And another. Shadows on shadows. Riley counted them without speaking. 5. Morgan counted 2. 4, no. 5, no. 6. A crash shattered the silence, a vase knocked over by a careless boot. Riley's voice sliced through the dark.
"Now."
She grabbed Morgan's arm and shoved her behind the heavy oak table just as the first gunshot exploded inside the cabin. Morgan screamed, but Riley's hand clamped over her mouth instantly. "Quiet," Riley whispered fiercely. "They can't know where you are." Morgan's heart pounded against Riley's palm. Riley slowly lowered her hand. "Don't move." Riley slipped away before Morgan could stop her. Morgan pressed herself against the floor, shaking, listening as the cabin filled with footsteps. Riley moved through the darkness, like she was made of it. The wooden floor never creaked beneath her boots. She didn't breathe loudly.
She didn't hesitate.
Morgan had never seen anyone so terrifyingly controlled. A man crept past Morgan's hiding place. Riley struck. It was silent. A muffled gasp, a thud, the faint scrape of a body dragged away. Another man approached, gun raised. Riley appeared behind him like a shadow with a heartbeat. One arm locked around his throat. One twist. He dropped. Morgan covered her mouth to keep from crying out. Riley kept moving. Effortless. Efficient.
Deadly.
Morgan wasn't sure if she was watching Riley save her or destroy every version of calm Morgan had ever had. A third assailant came through the hallway. He fired blindly. Riley tackled him, slamming him to the ground. The gun skidded across the floor, stopping inches from Morgan's hand. Morgan stared at it,
Trembling.
She'd never held a gun. She'd never wanted to. But the man grabbed Riley's throat. Riley choked. "Morgan," Riley rasped. "The gun." Morgan didn't think.
She didn't breathe.
She grabbed the weapon, hands shaking so hard she almost dropped it. Riley shoved the man's head sideways, exposing his shoulder. "Shoot." Morgan froze. I can't shoot," Riley barked. Morgan fired. The recoil jolted her arm, forcing her back against the wall. The man screamed, clutching his shoulder. Riley flipped him, slammed her knee into his spine, and knocked him out cold. Morgan stared at the gun in her shaking hands. Riley crawled toward her, grabbing her wrists gently. "You did good," Riley said, voice ragged from the fight. "You did exactly what you needed to do." Morgan stared at Riley, eyes wide, breath shattered. "I shot someone." Riley cupped Morgan's jaw with both hands, forcing her to meet her gaze. "He would have killed me." Morgan blinked, chest heaving. Riley brushed her thumb along Morgan's cheek. "I'm okay," Riley whispered. "Because of you." Another noise came from the kitchen. Riley spun around instantly, pushing Morgan back behind the table again. "That's 4 down," Riley murmured. "2 missing." Morgan grabbed Riley's sleeve. "Don't leave me." Riley paused. That 1 second of hesitation said everything. "I'm not," Riley whispered. "I'm right here." She moved to the edge of the table, peeking around the corner. Footsteps approached. 2 men. Morgan's hands trembled so violently she had to press them to the floor. Riley pulled a knife from her belt. Morgan's breath caught. Riley charged.
Silent. Precise.
The knife hit one man's thigh. He collapsed. The other fired wildly. Riley ducked behind the fridge, rolled, and kicked the gun out of his hand. He lunged. Riley slammed him against the counter. The cabin shook with the force. Morgan watched in terrified awe, her pulse pounding. Riley moved like a storm. No wasted motion, no hesitation, no mercy. When the last man fell, Riley didn't move for a moment. She stood over the bodies, chest rising and falling hard, her silhouette sharp in the faint moonlight coming through the broken blinds. Morgan stepped toward her slowly. Riley didn't respond. Morgan touched her arm. Riley flinched, then relaxed when she saw it was Morgan. "It's over," Morgan whispered. Riley nodded slowly. "Yeah." Morgan's eyes softened. "You saved me again." Riley swallowed hard. "I told you, I'm not losing you." Morgan stepped closer. Too close. Riley's breath hitched. "Are you hurt?" Riley shook her head.
No.
"You?" "Just shaken." Riley reached out and took Morgan's hand gently. Morgan felt the warmth, the steadiness, the roughness of Riley's palm. Riley squeezed. "I'm sorry you had to shoot someone." Morgan shook her head. "I'd do it again." Riley blinked, stunned. "For you," Morgan whispered. Riley looked at her like she'd said something impossible. Beautiful. Dangerous. Morgan stepped even closer, their bodies brushing. Riley's breath faltered. "Morgan, don't." "Why?" Morgan whispered. "Because if you touch me right now," Riley murmured, voice trembling, "I won't be able to stop." Morgan's heart pounded. Her lips parted. "Then don't stop." Riley froze. Her chest rose.
Fell.
Rose again. She stepped forward, closing the space, her hand lifting slowly toward Morgan's cheek. Then her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Riley swore, stepping back as if breaking a spell. She answered. "Carter." Silence. Riley's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Morgan stepped forward. "Riley, what is it?" Riley hung up. She turned to Morgan slowly. "The footage recovered from your office? The person who disabled your security system?" Morgan nodded, pulse racing. "Who was it?" Riley's voice cracked. "Catherine Hale is dead." Morgan's breath stopped. "Dead." "She died 2 years ago," Riley whispered. "Someone is using her identity." Morgan stared, horror clawing up her spine. "Then who?" Riley stepped closer, eyes dark, voice trembling, not with fear, but with something far worse. "Someone who knows everything about you, Morgan. Someone who knows your systems, your patterns, your weaknesses." Morgan's throat tightened. "Someone who wants me?" Riley swallowed. "Someone who wants you alive long enough to break you." And in the moonlit wreckage of the cabin, Morgan finally understood. Whoever was hunting her wasn't after money, or revenge, or her empire. They were after her.
Personally.
Intimately. Entirely. Riley didn't waste a second after the call. She paced through the wrecked cabin with a predator's urgency, grabbing weapons from fallen attackers, wiping her prints, moving with a precision so sharp it looked like muscle memory forged in war. Morgan watched her, still shaking, adrenaline burning through her veins like wildfire, unable to fully process that she had just survived an ambush, held a gun, shot a man, and then nearly kissed the woman now stalking across the room like a storm made of muscle, instinct, and fury. Riley finally stopped in front of Morgan, eyes fierce, breathing hard. "We're leaving."
Now.
Morgan nodded, voice tight. "Where are we going?" Riley hesitated 1 second, maybe 2, but it was enough for Morgan to notice.
"Somewhere no one else knows," Riley said.
"Somewhere not even your board could trace." "And you?" Morgan asked. "Do people know this place?" Riley's jaw flexed. "Only one."
"Who?"
Morgan pressed. Riley looked away. "Someone I don't speak to anymore." Morgan studied Riley, really studied her. The sudden tension in her shoulders, the way she avoided eye contact, the rare crack in her armor. "Riley, where are you taking me?" Riley finally met her gaze, something unspoken and raw flickering inside her. "Home." The word hit Morgan in a way she wasn't prepared for. Not a safe house. Not a base. Not a bunker. Home. Before Morgan could respond, Riley grabbed her backpack, threw Morgan's coat at her, and pulled her toward the back door of the cabin. They slipped into the night, snow crunching under their boots, the cold slicing the air like a blade. Riley's hand brushed Morgan's lower back every time the path narrowed, guiding her, steadying her, touching her in ways that felt both protective and unbearably intimate. Morgan didn't know how long they walked, 15 minutes, maybe 20, before Riley pointed to a black SUV hidden beneath a tarp of branches. She opened the passenger door, but before Morgan stepped inside, Riley caught her wrist. "Once we go," Riley said quietly, "you have to trust me." Morgan held her gaze. "I already do." Riley froze, as if the words pierced something she'd been guarding with her life. She opened her mouth to respond, but didn't. Instead, she shut the door behind Morgan and circled to the driver's side. The drive was silent at first, broken only by the hum of the engine and the distant moan of wind through the trees. Morgan stared at Riley's hands gripping the wheel, strong, veined, steady, and felt something dangerous blooming in her chest. "Why didn't you tell me Catherine was dead?" Morgan asked quietly. Riley didn't answer for several seconds. "Because I didn't know how you'd react." "You thought I'd fall apart?" "No," Riley said. "I thought you'd shut down. And I need you awake. Present. Fighting." Morgan looked out the window, breath fogging the glass. "I don't understand who would use her name." Riley's voice dropped. "Someone who knew what she meant to you." Morgan's throat tightened. She looked down at her hands. She wasn't just a business partner. Riley waited. Morgan swallowed hard. "She was the first person I ever let close. And she took everything I gave her and weaponized it." Riley's knuckles tightened on the wheel. "Then I promise you this," she murmured. "Whoever is doing this will regret it." Morgan's chest tightened at the fierce protectiveness in Riley's tone. "Why does it matter so much to you?" she whispered. Riley inhaled deeply, exhale shaky. "Because I know what betrayal feels like." Morgan turned slowly toward her. "Someone betrayed you?" Riley laughed softly, humorless. "Someone always betrays someone in my world. But this person, the one who knows the place we're going, was she important?" Riley didn't look at her. "She was my sister." Morgan's breath caught. "Your sister?" Riley nodded once. "Biological?" Morgan asked. "Adoptive," Riley said. "But it doesn't matter. She raised me, trained me. She was everything I had when no one else wanted me." Morgan swallowed. "And now you don't speak?" Riley's jaw clenched. "We disagreed. On everything that mattered." Morgan waited, but Riley didn't elaborate. The silence between them stretched thick and heavy until Riley suddenly turned off the main road, taking a narrow path through dense forest. The SUV bumped and swayed, branches scraping the sides, headlights cutting through the dark until a gate emerged. Iron. Enormous. Guarded by stone pillars on each side. Riley lowered her window and pressed her thumb to a hidden panel. The gate opened silently. Morgan stiffened. Riley, what is this place? A sanctuary, Riley murmured. For people like me. People like you? Morgan repeated. Riley didn't answer until the house came into view, a fortress-like structure built of dark stone, sharp edges, thick walls, and absolutely no windows on the first floor. People who spent most of their lives being hunted. Morgan shivered. Riley parked and stepped out, circling to open Morgan's door before she could reach it. Morgan blinked. You don't have to do that. I know, Riley said. I want to. Morgan's heart stuttered. They walked toward the entrance. The front door was heavy, reinforced steel disguised as wood. Riley entered a code on a hidden keypad. The door clicked. They stepped inside. The air smelled like cedar and cold stone. Dim lights hummed along the ceiling. Security monitors lined one wall. Weapons were locked behind armored glass. But opposite all the steel and technology, there was a single framed photograph. Morgan stepped toward it slowly. A younger Riley, barely 20, stood beside a woman with sharp green eyes, dark hair shaved on one side, tattoos across toned arms. They were smiling, truly smiling. That's her, Morgan whispered. Riley nodded. Alina. She looks like a better version of me, Riley said quietly. No, Morgan said gently. She looks fierce.
Wild.
But you look softer. Riley stiffened. Morgan sighed softly. You loved her. I still do, Riley whispered. I always will. Morgan turned toward her, something warm and painful crawling beneath her skin. Do you think she would help us? Riley hesitated. Alina doesn't help anyone unless she wants to. Will she want to help you? Riley exhaled slowly. She'll want to help you. Morgan blinked. Me? Riley looked at her with a rawness so intense it made Morgan's stomach flip. You're innocent in all of this. She hates people like me, but she protects people like you. Morgan swallowed hard. Riley. Yeah? Riley whispered. Do you think we're safe here? Riley stepped closer, brushing a loose strand of hair behind Morgan's ear, so unexpectedly intimate that Morgan's eyes fluttered shut. For tonight, Riley murmured, you're safer than anyone else on the planet. Morgan felt her breath catch. Riley's fingers lingered an extra second.
2.
3. Then Riley pulled away abruptly. I'll sweep the perimeter, she said, voice tight. Morgan reached out and caught her wrist. Riley froze. Morgan whispered, don't leave me alone. Riley turned slowly, eyes dark, breathing uneven. I won't, she said. Not tonight. They stood in silence, breathing the same air, hearts beating dangerously close. Then a voice echoed from the hallway. Well, look what the storm dragged in. Riley paled. Morgan's breath hitched, because from the shadows stepped a woman, tattooed, sharp-eyed, smirking with lethal amusement. Riley whispered, barely audible, Alina. Alina's arrival didn't feel like a person walking into a room. It felt like a blade sliding between ribs, cold, precise, and impossible to ignore. She leaned into the doorway with an infuriating kind of confidence, her tattoos curling across her arms like secrets etched in ink, her green eyes scanning the scene with an amusement that twisted something in Morgan's stomach. Riley stiffened instantly, her entire body reacting with a tension that told Morgan this was not someone she feared, but someone she once loved, trusted, or maybe even depended on. Look who finally crawled back out of the grave, Alina said, smirk twisting. Didn't expect you to show your face here again, little ghost. Riley exhaled sharply through her nose. This isn't the time. It never is with you, Alina replied, stepping forward with a predatory elegance. Her gaze slid to Morgan with slow, calculated interest. So, this is the Ice Queen you've been babysitting. Morgan straightened instantly. My name is Morgan Steele. I know, Alina said, her smirk deepening. You're the one with the billion-dollar empire and the emotional capacity of a dry wall. And yet here you are, trembling on my floor. Fascinating. Morgan's jaw tightened. I'm not trembling. Sweetheart, Alina said, chuckling with a wild glint in her eyes. Your pulse is loud enough I could track it from the hallway. Riley stepped between them in an instant. Back off. Alina lifted a brow. Protective, are we? That's new. She's under my protection, Riley growled. Correction, Alina said, brushing past Riley like she weighed nothing. She's under my roof. Which means my rules. Morgan stepped forward despite the adrenaline still shaking her bones. I don't have time for whatever history you two need to resolve. Someone is trying to kill me, someone planted a bomb in my building, someone sent armed men after us, and someone is using the identity of my dead ex-girlfriend. I need information, not sibling rivalry. Alina turned toward her slowly, and something colder, sharper, entered her expression.
Good, she said.
I like people who speak plainly. She gestured toward the center of the room. Sit. Morgan sat without hesitation. Riley hesitated, tension radiating off her in waves, then reluctantly joined her at the table. Alina activated a console, the holographic display shimmering to life above the metal surface. Security footage appeared, grainy, flickering, but unmistakably showing the interior of Morgan's building. The moment the bomb was planted, the figure moving through the corridors.
The breach.
Where did you get this? Morgan demanded. I intercepted it before the government did, Alina replied. I track certain feeds. Old habit. Riley frowned. You're still tapping federal lines? You say that like you didn't learn it from me. Alina shot back. Morgan forced her attention on the footage. The figure was blurred by interference, hood up, movements efficient, but almost graceful. A ghost gliding through familiar halls. Alina paused the video. I want to play a game, she said. Tell me what you see. A blurred intruder, Morgan said. Someone masking their identity. Alina said, unimpressed. Try again. Riley leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Look at the movement pattern. Morgan frowned. The way they pause before turning. The way they check the angles. The rhythm. It's like, she froze. Her heart dropped into her stomach. It's like watching me. Riley's head turned sharply. Explain. Morgan swallowed hard. That's how I used to move through the building when we first started the company. Back when I didn't have assistants. Or security. Or anything. Before Catherine. Before the board. Before everything. Alina's mouth curled into a satisfied smirk. Exactly. Morgan blinked. How can someone copy my movements from years ago? Riley answered instead. Someone who watched you. Studied you, Alina added. Knew you intimately. Not romantically, habitually. Your patterns, your blind spots, your shortcuts. Morgan's breath grew shallow. Catherine? Alina shook her head.
Dead.
I verified it personally. Riley stiffened. Why were you verifying her death? Because your girl here, Alina nodded at Morgan. Went off the rails when her ex betrayed her. I wanted to know which direction the damage would fall. Morgan stiffened. Riley shot her a concerned glance. But Catherine is dead, Morgan insisted. Someone is using her identity to mess with me. Right, Alina said, but the pattern isn't Catherine's. It's yours. And that tells us something far worse. Morgan looked between the two sisters. What? Alina enlarged the screen, overlaying a second set of glowing lines. These, she said, are your old access routes. Before you became CEO. The ghostly figure's path aligned almost perfectly. Riley exhaled slowly. Someone close to you. Very close. Morgan's skin prickled. Names flashed through her mind. Faces. Memories. But one name stuck like a shard of glass. Olivia Grant. Her former chief of staff. The woman who had been with her through every early failure, every sleepless night, every triumph, every heartbreak, especially the one involving Catherine. Riley noticed the shift in Morgan's breathing. Who is it? Olivia, Morgan whispered. Alina leaned back, expression sharpening. Tell me everything. Morgan closed her eyes for a moment. She was my chief of staff for 5 years. She knew everything, my passwords, my schedule, how I think, how I move, how I react. She knew Catherine. They worked together for years. When Catherine betrayed me, Olivia said I went too far in destroying her. Olivia left the company soon after. Quietly, without a fight. Riley's jaw flexed. Resentment. And opportunity, Alina added. She had access to everything before she walked out. If she copied your behavioral patterns, she could replicate them. Why would she wait years? Morgan asked. Time doesn't heal everyone, Alina said. Sometimes it ferments them. Riley leaned in closer. Morgan, what exactly happened with Catherine? All of it. Morgan stiffened. Why does that matter? Because the person hunting you cares about Catherine, Riley said. And probably cares about you. In their own twisted way. Morgan swallowed hard. Catherine betrayed me. She siphoned pieces of our early code and sold them off. I confronted her. It turned into a war. I burned every bridge she had in the industry because I couldn't risk the company falling with her. Olivia said I was cruel. Said there were other ways. Riley watched her quietly. Were you cruel? Morgan's voice cracked. I didn't think so at the time. Alina hummed, tapping a finger on the table. So Catherine loses everything. Olivia loses everything associated with her. And you rise. You become the powerful one, the untouchable one. She flicked the footage back onto the screen. And now someone is dismantling you piece by piece. Riley stood abruptly, hands slamming against the table. We're done waiting. We need a plan. Oh, there's one, Alina said, turning toward the console. But you're not going to like it. Riley crossed her arms. Try me. We use Morgan as bait. Riley's reaction was instant. Absolutely not. Relax, Alina said. I meant bait in a controlled way. We broadcast a false signal from her old office, something that mimics her routine from years ago. We lure the ghost to a specific point. And then what? Riley snapped. You throw a net over them? Something like that, Alina said, smiling wickedly. This is a fortress, Riley. I built it for people like us. Riley shook her head.
No.
Morgan stays out of sight. I'm not handing her to a psychopath. Riley, Alina said calmly, you already brought the psychopath here. Morgan's stomach flipped. What? Alina tapped the console again. A map appeared, a single red, moving slowly, steadily. Someone has been probing my outer firewall for 20 minutes. Not randomly. Purposefully. Riley froze. Explain. The phantom ping is mimicking Morgan's old access signature. But that's not all. Alina zoomed in. Beneath the red, that was another identifier. Riley Carter, decommissioned tactical ID. Riley's blood drained from her face. That's impossible. Is it? Alina asked softly. You have enemies. She has enemies. Someone is merging your ghosts together into one monster. Morgan's voice trembled. Why both of us? Alina turned, eyes razor sharp. Because this isn't just about revenge. She looked at Morgan. This ghost wants your empire. Then at Riley. And this one wants your protector. Then finally at the screen. And now they're coming for both. Morgan's breath caught. Riley stepped closer to her instantly. They won't touch you. They're already here, Alina said. And the only thing left to decide is whether we run. The red dot crossed the first perimeter line. Alina smiled coldly. Or whether we hunt back. The alarm didn't scream. It pulsed. A low, vibrating hum that felt like it rose from the very bones of the fortress, thrumming through the metal table and into Morgan's spine. Alina's smirk vanished, replaced by deadly focus. Riley was already moving, chair scraping harshly against the floor as she shoved it back and planted herself between Morgan and the nearest wall, body lowering into a protective stance so instinctive it made Morgan's chest ache. Alina, Riley barked, tell me what we're dealing with. Alina flicked her fingers across the holographic controls with blistering speed. Outer perimeter breached. Not fully. Someone's testing for weak points. They're smart. They're not attacking. They're reading the defenses. Riley cursed under her breath. They're mapping your grid. Yes, Alina replied, which means they know exactly where to hit once they decide to. Morgan's pulse pounded. How long until they get inside? If they force their way? Alina said. 20 minutes, maybe less. If they slip in quietly. She tilted her head. We may not even know until they're breathing down our necks. Riley turned, grabbed Morgan by the shoulders, and pressed her back against the cold metal wall. Stay here. No, Morgan said, chest tight. I'm not hiding. Riley's eyes flashed. Morgan, this is not a negotiation. Everything is a negotiation. Morgan snapped back. And I am not letting you run into danger while I stand in a corner like a terrified child. You're not a child, Riley growled. You're the target. The words hit Morgan harder than gunfire. And what does that make you? She whispered. Riley didn't look away. The shield. For a moment, neither of them breathed. The humming alarm softened, becoming a rhythmic pulse. Their hearts matched it. Riley leaned closer, voice dropping. I need you alive. I need you where I can see you. And I need you not to die for me, Morgan shot back, voice cracking. Riley froze. Morgan had said the truth too plainly, too rawly, without preparing herself for the consequence. Alina cleared her throat loudly from across the room. If you two are done eye-fucking each other, can we please focus on the incoming threat? Riley jerked back slightly, but the flush on her neck betrayed her. Morgan's breath hitched. She felt exposed, like Alina had torn a curtain off something Morgan wasn't ready to name. Alina tapped another sequence on the console, and the map zoomed out, showing not just the fortress but the entire stretch of forest surrounding it. A red blip pulsed steadily, too steadily. They know exactly where they're going, Alina said. This isn't trial and error. They're tracking something specific. Tracking what? Morgan asked. Alina looked directly at her. You. Riley slammed a fist into the wall.
How?
Old biometric echo, Alina replied. Someone recreated your early biometric footprint improperly, so it's leaking a faint signal your body used to produce when stressed. Morgan blinked. Wait, you're saying I'm broadcasting? Like a beacon, Alina said. A soft one, but someone tuned into your frequency. Morgan felt sick. Riley's expression darkened into something primal. How do we shut it off? We can't, Alina said. It's embedded into her system from years ago, in the same hardware the attacker copied. Then scramble it, Riley said. Block it with interference. I can scramble it, Alina said, but it will leave one brief window of vulnerability while the signal resets. How long is brief? Morgan asked quietly. 90 seconds, Alina replied. Maybe 100. And during that window, you'll be exposed. Morgan swallowed hard. Riley stepped sharply toward Alina. Then absolutely not. We do not put Morgan in the open. You don't have a choice, Alina said calmly. If we don't scramble it, the attacker will pinpoint the exact location of this fortress within the next 2 hours. Maybe sooner. Then we move her, Riley said. We get her out. Alina laughed, humorless.
To where?
Every other safe house is compromised. The only reason they haven't shot both your asses yet is because this one still has defenses. She crossed her arms. The only path forward is to scramble the signal. Riley shook her head violently.
No.
There has to be another way.
There isn't, Alina said.
Unless you want to hold Morgan hostage for the rest of her life in a bunker. And let me tell you, sweetheart, she gestured at Morgan. This one doesn't do well in cages. Morgan's jaw clenched. Riley looked at her sharply. Morgan, she's right, Morgan whispered. I can't live locked away. You won't be, Riley said. I'll take you somewhere else. And then we'll run for the rest of my life? Morgan said softly. Because this person isn't hunting me for money or power. They're hunting me. And they won't stop until they get what they want. Riley shut her eyes briefly. I promised I'd protect you. Then let me help you protect me, Morgan said. Riley opened her eyes, and the emotion there was so raw, so unguarded, that Morgan forgot how to breathe. If something happens to you, Riley whispered, I will never recover from it. Morgan's heart cracked open. Riley, no, Riley said, voice breaking. I need you alive. I need you safe. You don't understand. Morgan stepped closer, her hand lifting as if drawn by something magnetic. She touched Riley's jaw lightly, softly, reverently. Riley stilled, as if electrocuted. "I do understand," Morgan whispered. "Maybe more than I should." Riley's breath hitched. She leaned in, just slightly, her forehead brushing Morgan's, a whisper of contact that felt more intimate than a kiss. "I can't lose you," Riley murmured.
Not now.
"Not when I—" She cut herself off abruptly, as if the truth was too dangerous to say aloud. Morgan's pulse thundered. "When you what?" Riley swallowed hard.
Don't ask me that.
"I need to know," Morgan whispered. Riley exhaled shakily. "Morgan, I don't get attached. I don't allow myself to." She closed her eyes, forehead pressing against Morgan's. "But you—" The alarm suddenly shifted tone, a sharper pulse cutting the moment in half. Alina spun around. "They're breaching the second perimeter." Morgan jerked away slightly, breath shaking. Riley stepped instantly back into soldier mode, grabbing weapons from the stash along the wall. "Where do we put her?" Riley demanded. Alina pointed toward a reinforced corridor. "Panic room. Last resort fallback." "No," Morgan said, voice steady. Riley turned on her. "Morgan, if I hide, they win," Morgan said. "I will not spend the rest of my life running from a ghost wearing a stolen identity." Riley stepped closer. "This isn't about pride. It's about survival," Morgan corrected. "Yours and mine." "I'm not debating this," Riley snapped. "You're going." "Then go ahead," Morgan said sharply. "Knock me out and drag me there." Riley froze. Morgan stared at her, eyes unwavering. "Because unless you physically force me, I am not letting you do this alone." Alina muttered under her breath. "I like her." Riley shot her a glare. Alina shrugged. "I'm just saying, hard not to." Riley turned back to Morgan. "If you stand in the open, they will shoot you." "Then don't let them," Morgan said. Riley closed her eyes again, pain carving a line across her face. "You're going to kill me," she murmured. "Not if you protect me," Morgan whispered.
Their eyes locked.
Electricity tangled between them. Finally, Riley exhaled, defeated. "Fine," she growled. "But you stay behind me. At all times." "Deal," Morgan whispered. Riley grabbed a sleek black device from the table and pressed it into Morgan's palm. "Shock signaler," she said. "If you get separated from me, press the center. I will find you." Morgan stared at it. "You always find me." Riley froze for a second at the weight of those words. Something deep and unsettled flickered across her face. Want, fear, longing, all twisted together. Alina interrupted, tapping rapidly at the console. "Scramble sequence ready. Once I initiate, Morgan will glow like a beacon for exactly 95 seconds. Riley stiffened. "Alina, too late," Alina said. "They're already adjusting. If we don't scramble now, they'll get through all layers before sunrise." Riley grabbed Morgan's hand, firm, grounding, protective. "Stay with me," she ordered. "Always," Morgan said without hesitation. Riley's breath caught. Alina rolled her eyes dramatically. "God, this is disgusting." Then she pressed the command. The scramble sequence launched. Every light in the fortress dimmed. The hum deepened. The red dot on the map accelerated. Morgan felt something warm spread beneath her skin, like her pulse was being tracked from the inside out. Riley's grip on her hand tightened until it almost hurt. "I have you," Riley whispered. "I'm not letting go." Alina looked up at them, expression sharpening into something deadly. "Brace yourselves." The doors of the fortress vibrated. A shadow crossed the outer hall. "They're here." The first impact against the fortress door wasn't loud, it was deep. A blunt, seismic thud that vibrated through the floor and into Morgan's bones, the kind of sound that meant the attacker wasn't testing anymore. They were coming in. Alina's fingers flew over the holographic controls, her tattoos glowing faint blue in the reflected light. "Outer lock compromised," she said with unnerving calm. "Riley, you have 40 seconds before the next breach." Riley had already positioned Morgan behind her, one hand gripping Morgan's wrist tightly enough to leave marks. "Stay right here," Riley said, voice low, fierce, trembling with the wrong kind of fear. Behind me, no matter what happens. Morgan nodded, though her pulse hammered so violently she wondered if the whole fortress could hear it. Alina's systems mapped the attacker's approach in real time, one red, moving with eerie precision. "It's just one person," Morgan whispered. "Just one." "One," Alina muttered, "who walked through my outer perimeter like it was a flimsy Walmart door." "Pay attention." Riley didn't respond. Her whole body was coiled tension, her stance deadly, controlled, but her eyes, the eyes she kept flicking back toward Morgan, held something far more human. "When the door opens," Riley said, "you run behind the secondary barrier." "No," Morgan whispered instantly. "Morgan, I'm not leaving you." Riley almost swore, the word catching in her throat. "This isn't bravery. It's reckless. It's survival." Morgan shot back. "Yours and mine." Riley's jaw clenched. "Why are you always so?" "Because I care about you." The words ripped out of Morgan before she could stop them. Riley froze. Completely. The second perimeter alarm began flashing red, bathing the room in pulsing light. The fortress shook again as a second, stronger impact hit the door. But Riley wasn't looking at the entrance anymore. She was looking at Morgan like the world had tilted, like gravity had shifted, like she'd been hit harder by Morgan's confession than by any attacker she'd ever faced. "Morgan," Riley breathed, not trusting herself, not trusting the moment. "We can't, this isn't." "I know," Morgan whispered. "But it's true." The door screamed as metal warped. Alina muttered, "Great timing. Truly excellent emotional management from both of you." Riley didn't even blink in Alina's direction. She stepped closer to Morgan, their bodies inches apart, her hand still gripping Morgan's wrist, her breath shaky. "If we survive this," she whispered, "we're going to talk about that." Morgan's voice dropped. "You think we won't survive?" "No," Riley said fiercely. "I think I need you alive to have that conversation." The door cracked. A sliver of cold air sliced through. Riley shoved Morgan behind her again, placing herself between Morgan and the breach with the absolute certainty of someone who had already decided she would die first before letting anything touch the woman behind her. The metal door split open. A figure stepped through the breach, framed in sparks and smoke. Hooded.
Silent.
Moving with the same unnatural, predatory grace Morgan had seen on the footage. Riley pulled her gun up instantly. "Don't move," she shouted. The figure didn't stop, didn't hesitate, didn't even speak. They walked slowly into the room, boots crunching over debris. A second step, a third. Their hand lifted toward the hood. Riley tightened her grip on the gun. "I said don't." The hood fell back. Morgan gasped. Riley froze. Even Alina stiffened. Because the face revealed wasn't Olivia's, wasn't Catherine's. It wasn't anyone Morgan had expected or feared. It was a young woman, late 20s maybe. Sharp jawline, pale skin, dark hair braided tightly, eyes cold as winter steel, and a faint, thin scar slicing across her cheek. Morgan didn't recognize her, but the woman smiled at Morgan like she'd known her forever. "Hello, Morgan," she said softly. Morgan's stomach dropped. "Who are you?" The woman tilted her head. "You don't remember?" Riley stepped forward, blocking Morgan completely. She said stop. The woman's eyes flicked to Riley, bored. "Move." "Not a chance." "Move," the woman said again, her tone still eerily calm. "Or I'll make you." Riley didn't move an inch. Alina tapped at her controls, muttering, "This bitch needs subtitles because I'm not following her level of overconfidence." Morgan risked looking around Riley's shoulder. The woman smiled wider. "You were always so sheltered, Morgan. Wrapped in walls of glass and steel. Guarded by people who thought you were fragile." Morgan's voice trembled. "I don't know you." The woman's smile sharpened. "But I know you." Riley raised her weapon higher. "What do you want?" "You," the woman said simply. "Or rather, what you owe." Morgan's voice cracked.
"Oh."
The attacker's gaze darkened. "You owe blood." Riley fired. The bullet sliced past the woman's cheek, but at the last possible millisecond, She tilted her head and avoided a kill shot with inhuman precision. Riley, what the hell was that? Alina yelled. She dodged a point-blank shot? That shouldn't be possible, Riley growled. The woman took a single step forward. Riley aimed again, but the attacker lifted her hand, pressed a small device on her wrist, and suddenly the entire fortress lights flickered violently. Alina swore. She's jamming my system. The air hummed, sharp as static. Riley lunged, but the woman reached into her coat and tossed something toward Morgan. Riley reacted before Morgan even saw it. She grabbed Morgan around the waist, twisted, and slammed her to the ground just as the object exploded in a burst of white, disorienting light. Morgan's ears rang. She felt Riley's arms around her, protecting her, holding her so tightly she could hardly breathe. She clung to Riley's shoulders, burying her face in Riley's neck as the world blurred. Morgan, Riley whispered urgently. Stay with me. Stay with me. The ringing faded. The woman stood across the room now, watching them with unsettling interest. Pathetic, she murmured. You let her soften you. Riley rose slowly, still shielding Morgan with her body. If you touch her, Riley said, voice deadly quiet, I will end you. Oh, I've heard that before, the woman replied. From your sister. Alina slammed a fist on the control table. Try me, sweetheart. I dare you. The woman smirked. So quick to anger. Just like Riley. Who are you? Morgan demanded again, her voice wobbling between fear and rage. Why are you doing this? The woman finally spoke the words that froze the air. My name is Evelyn Hale. Morgan's blood stopped. Hale, Riley hissed. As in, Catherine Hale's sister, Evelyn finished. Morgan felt the world tilt sideways. Catherine never mentioned. Me? Evelyn said coldly. Why would she? You erased her. You destroyed her career. You crushed her reputation. You built your empire on the ashes of her life. That's not true, Morgan whispered. She betrayed me. She was desperate, Evelyn snapped. Desperate to keep her job. To keep the company she helped build. You didn't have to ruin her. You didn't have to humiliate her. But you did. You burned her down. Morgan stepped back, shaking. Catherine stole from me. From the company. She made one terrible mistake, Evelyn said. And you made sure it ended her. Riley stepped forward. Catherine made her choices. And you, Evelyn said, pointing at Morgan, have never paid for yours. Riley positioned herself directly in front of Morgan again. So, you're doing all of this because of your sister? Evelyn's gaze hardened. You took someone I loved. So I will take someone you love. The words hit the room like a bullet. Riley stiffened. Morgan went still behind her. Alina whispered, oh shit. Riley's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. She doesn't love me. Morgan inhaled sharply, as if the words physically hurt. Evelyn smiled cruelly. Oh, Riley, you really don't see it. Her gaze slid to Morgan. And you, hiding behind her like she's your shield. Don't you think that says something? Morgan's voice was barely audible. You don't know anything about us. I know everything, Evelyn said. I've been watching you for months. Riley took a step forward. You're done talking. Am I? Evelyn whispered. And then she moved, lightning fast, straight toward Morgan. Riley reacted instantly, throwing herself into Evelyn's path, fists flying. Evelyn slammed into Riley, the two women colliding with brutal force. Riley blocked the first hit, ducked the second, but Evelyn twisted, landing a sharp elbow to Riley's ribs. Morgan screamed. Riley. Riley grunted, staggered, but didn't fall. She struck back, hard, her fist connecting with Evelyn's jaw. Evelyn stumbled but recovered too quickly. They fought with vicious precision, every movement trained, practiced, deadly. Morgan had never seen Riley so enraged. Not even at the cabin. Not even during the ambush. Riley fought like she was defending something sacred. Evelyn swung a blade from her belt. Morgan gasped. Riley caught Evelyn's wrist, twisting, but Evelyn slammed her knee into Riley's stomach, forcing her to release. The knife sliced across Riley's shoulder, drawing blood. Morgan screamed her name again. Riley barely heard her. She lunged, grabbing Evelyn and slamming her into the metal table. Evelyn grabbed Riley's throat, nails digging in, eyes wild. "You think you can protect her from me?" Evelyn hissed. "I already took everything from her once. Now I'll take you too." Riley snarled, voice scraping out from her tightening throat. "Over my dead body." Evelyn smiled. "Exactly." She drove the blade upward, toward Riley's ribs. Morgan didn't think. She didn't breathe.
She ran.
She threw herself between them. Riley screamed. Morgan a no. The blade missed Riley, and cut Morgan instead. The moment the blade sliced into Morgan's side, time didn't just slow. It shattered. Sound ripped away. Light fractured. Everything collapsed into the raw, searing pain blooming beneath her ribs and the distant, horrifying realization that she had just stepped into the one place Riley had spent every second trying to keep her away from. Riley's scream tore through the fortress, a sound Morgan had never heard from her before, ragged, broken, feral. Morgan stumbled, breath punched from her lungs as blood soaked through her shirt, warm and terrifyingly fast. The world jerked sideways. She collapsed to her knees, vision blurring. Evelyn's eyes widened, not with remorse, but with cold satisfaction. "Interesting," she murmured, stepping back. "So she really is your weak spot." Riley turned on Evelyn with a violence that was almost inhuman. She launched herself at the attacker, slamming Evelyn against the metal table so hard the entire structure shook. "I'm going to kill you," Riley roared, voice cracking under the weight of panic, rage, and something deeper, something that sounded too much like heartbreak. Evelyn spat blood and laughed. "Look at you, falling apart. All for her." Riley didn't hesitate. She struck, the blow crunching into Evelyn's jaw, sending her reeling. "You don't get to say her name," Riley hissed, grabbing Evelyn by the collar and dragging her across the table. "You don't get to look at her. You don't get to touch her. You don't get to breathe in the same room she's in." Evelyn twisted, landing a desperate kick to Riley's leg. Riley stumbled, but didn't fall. She lunged again, pinning Evelyn to the ground. "You came here for her?" Riley growled. "Then your fight is with me." Evelyn smirked, blood coating her teeth. "It always was." Riley's fist flew toward Evelyn's throat, but Morgan's voice, weak and trembling, cut through the chaos. Riley froze mid-strike. She turned, and the expression that crossed her face was agony. No shields. No training. No walls. Just raw fear. "Morgan." She bolted to her, falling to her knees, so hard the impact echoed. Her hands hovered over Morgan's wound, shaking violently. No, Morgan, look at me, stay with me. Keep your eyes open, Morgan." Morgan tried to breathe, but the air caught in her throat. Sorry," she gasped. I had to." "Don't you dare apologize," Riley choked out. "Don't you ever apologize for saving me." "God, Morgan. Why would you do something that stupid?" "Because," Morgan whispered, blood on her lips. "You're not someone I can lose." Riley's mouth parted, and something inside her broke wide open. She pressed her forehead to Morgan's, breath shaking uncontrollably. "No," Riley whispered, voice cracking. "You don't get to say things like that right now. Not when." Her hand pressed firmly to the wound, trying desperately to stop the bleeding. "Alina!" Riley shouted, voice pure panic. "Medkit.
Now."
Alina was already sprinting, sliding across the floor with a metal kit in her hands. She dropped to Morgan's other side, eyes widening. "She's losing blood too fast." Riley's eyes flashed with terror. "Fix her." "I need her still," Alina snapped. "Move your hands." "If I move, she'll bleed out." "I said move." Riley's hands lifted, trembling, and blood poured fresh from the wound. Riley nearly collapsed at the sight. "Morgan, stay with me," she whispered, voice shaking.
"Please."
"Please don't shut your eyes." Morgan blinked slowly, vision fading at the edges. I'm tired." No, Riley's voice broke. No, no, Morgan, look at me. Look at me. She cupped Morgan's face with blood-stained hands, shaking. Stay awake. But Morgan's eyelids fluttered. Riley's breath hitched like she'd been shot. She tilted Morgan's chin up, forcing their eyes to meet. Listen to me, Riley whispered fiercely, her voice a trembling blade. You don't get to die in my arms. You don't get to leave me like this. You don't get to go somewhere I can't follow. Morgan's lips parted. Riley. Riley leaned closer, forehead pressed to Morgan's, tears slipping silently down her face. You hear me? She whispered, voice breaking. I need you. I've needed you since the second I met you, and I was too stupid, too scared to admit it. But I'm not scared anymore.
Not now.
Not when I might lose you. Morgan blinked weakly, tears forming. Riley, I'm right here, Riley whispered. I'm not going anywhere. Stay with me. Please. Alina pressed a sealant patch to the wound, and Morgan gasped in pain. Riley grabbed her hand instantly. I know, breathe, just breathe, Morgan, breathe with me. Morgan squeezed her hand, weak but grounding. Don't leave, she whispered. Riley's voice cracked open completely. Never, she vowed. Never, Morgan. I swear to you, I will never leave you. Not ever. Morgan's vision blurred again, but she forced her eyes open. I'm scared. Riley pressed her lips to Morgan's forehead, a trembling, desperate kiss. Me too, she whispered. But you're going to be okay. I promise you. Alina glared at Riley. Hold her steady, or she'll go into shock. Riley slid behind Morgan, lifting her gently into her arms, cradling her against her chest. Morgan sagged into her, breath weakening. Stay awake, Riley begged, voice fracturing. Morgan, please, stay awake, stay. Evelyn groaned from across the room. Riley snapped her head up, eyes going murderously dark. If you move, Riley growled, I will end you before you touch the floor. Evelyn smirked weakly, wincing. Looks like I struck the right nerve. Riley's voice dropped to something terrifying. Touch her again, and there won't be enough left of you to bury. Evelyn's smile faltered. Alina sealed another patch to the wound. We stabilized her for now, but she needs a medical facility. No hospital, Riley said instantly. They'll track her. I know, Alina said, but she won't last 6 hours without better care. Riley's hands tightened around Morgan. Then we move.
Now.
Alina nodded. I'll prep the transport. Riley leaned down, her lips brushing Morgan's temple. I've got you, she whispered. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Do you hear me? Morgan's eyes fluttered open the slightest bit. Riley, yeah? Morgan's lips trembled. Don't blame yourself. Riley choked on a breath. Too late. She held Morgan's face between her hands, desperate. Morgan Steele, you do not get to die. Not now. Not after everything. Not after I finally. She stopped herself, breath shaking out of her. Stay. Please stay. Morgan tried to speak, tried to form Riley's name again, but her eyes rolled back. Her body went limp. Riley let out a sound so broken, so guttural, that even Alina froze. No, Morgan, come back, Morgan. But Morgan didn't answer. Her head slumped against Riley's chest, and the world collapsed into chaos. Riley carried Morgan out of the fortress in her arms, refusing to let anyone else touch her, refusing to loosen her grip even as the cold night air sliced across her skin like knives made of ice and panic. Morgan's head rested against Riley's shoulder, her face pale, her breath shallow and uneven. Riley kept murmuring to her, half orders, half prayers. Stay with me.
Breathe.
Don't you dare leave me. I'm right here. I've got you. She said it over and over as if repetition could keep Morgan alive by force of will alone. Alina ran ahead, her boots pounding against the ground as she opened the hidden garage door with a swipe of her hand. The underground tunnel hummed to life, lights flickering awake as the platform lowered a black armored vehicle into place. Riley climbed inside with Morgan still pressed to her chest, refusing to lay her down, refusing to let go. Med kit, Riley barked, voice sharp and trembling at the same time. Alina tossed her a larger kit from the dashboard. Riley tore it open with her teeth, hands shaking uncontrollably. "She's bleeding through the sealant," Alina said quietly. Riley shot her a glare that was pure fury and fear twisted together. "Then fix it." "I need her still," Alina muttered. "And you're vibrating like a dying transformer." "Let me." "No," Riley snapped, gathering Morgan closer. "You're not touching her." "Riley," Alina said sharply. "If you don't let me help, she will die." Riley froze. Slowly, she forced her fingers to unclench. Alina knelt beside her, pressed another pressure patch to Morgan's wound, and adjusted the field injector. Morgan winced unconsciously, a tiny sound, barely audible, but enough to shatter Riley's composure. Riley bent forward, pressing her lips to Morgan's hair, her breath breaking. "I've got you," she whispered again. "I've got you, sweetheart. I swear I do." Alina didn't comment on the endearment. She just worked faster. Finally she said, "She's stable enough to move. We need to get her to the secondary safe clinic. 1 hour, maybe less if I push the route." "Push it," Riley rasped. "I don't care what you break." Alina slid into the driver's seat and slammed the vehicle into motion. The tunnel blazed past them in a blur of steel and darkness. Riley rocked Morgan gently, grounding her breathing against Morgan's, trying to match their rhythms, steadying both their heartbeats. Morgan's eyelids fluttered once, a weak, desperate twitch. Riley leaned close. "Morgan? Morgan, can you hear me?" Morgan's lips parted. Nothing came out. Riley's throat tightened painfully. "It's okay," she whispered. "Don't talk. Just stay with me." Alina glanced at them through the rearview mirror. "You need to keep her conscious." Riley swallowed. Her hands trembled as she cupped Morgan's cheek. "Morgan, sweetheart, open your eyes." Morgan's brow moved, a soft furrow. Riley's heart nearly burst from relief and terror tangled together. "Please," Riley whispered, her voice cracking completely. "Please don't go where I can't follow." Morgan exhaled weakly, a sound like a sigh from someone slipping between worlds. Riley's throat closed. "Don't you dare," she whispered fiercely. "Don't you take that step. Don't you leave me, Morgan Steele." "Riley," Alina said gentler now. "Maybe talk to her. Something emotional. Keep her tethered." Riley froze. Emotion was the one battlefield she never knew how to walk across. But Morgan's head slid limply against her shoulder, her breathing hitching. Riley didn't get to be afraid.
"Not now."
She pressed her forehead to Morgan's and inhaled shakily. "I need you," Riley whispered. "And I don't mean in the way I've needed anyone before. This is different. You're different." Morgan's body twitched faintly at the sound of Riley's voice. Riley continued, voice low and trembling. "I told myself I didn't get attached. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself you were just another assignment. But the truth is," she swallowed hard, breath shaking, "I don't know how to exist in a world where you're not breathing in it." Alina muttered softly. "Good. More of that. Keep going." Riley glared, then turned her focus back to Morgan, lifting her face gently. "The first time I saw you," Riley whispered, "you were walking into that boardroom like the whole world belonged to you, and I thought you were the coldest woman I'd ever met." Her voice cracked. "But then you started looking at me like I wasn't invisible, like I wasn't a weapon, like I was someone." Morgan's tear slipped out of the corner of her eye. Riley choked. "You changed everything, Morgan. Every rule I had. Every wall. Every lie I told myself. You melted right through them without even trying." She kissed Morgan's forehead, soft and broken. "I'm in love with you."
"There."
"I said it. I'm in love with you. And if you die before I tell you this when you're awake, I'll never forgive myself." Alina's eyes widened in the mirror, but she stayed silent. Morgan's fingers twitched weakly, curling slightly against Riley's shirt. Riley gasped, clutching her hand. "There you are," she whispered desperately. "Come back to me. Stay with me. Don't you leave me." Alina suddenly cursed under her breath and slammed the brakes. Riley jerked forward, holding Morgan tight, as the vehicle screeched to a halt. "What now?" Riley barked.
"We've got company," Alina said.
5 o'clock. They followed the tunnel exit route. "Evelyn?" Riley asked.
"Maybe," Alina said.
"Could be more." Riley positioned Morgan on the seat gently, reluctantly, before reaching for her gun. "Alina, take her and drive. I'll clear the path." "Like hell," Alina snapped. "I'm not leaving you. She can't survive a firefight," Riley shouted, eyes wild. "Get her out of here." A bullet slammed into the metal plating on the side of the vehicle, sending sparks flying. Riley nearly tore the door off its hinges as she dove out, firing 3 rounds at the dark silhouettes approaching from the tree line. Alina gunned the engine, swerving to create distance, but staying close enough to give Riley cover. Riley moved like pure wrath, dangerous, lethal, unstoppable, but her head kept snapping back toward Morgan, checking, making sure she was still breathing. Morgan stirred weakly, eyes fluttering open for a fraction of a second. She saw Riley, silhouetted against the headlights, firing into the darkness, blood still dripping from her shoulder, and her lips parted. "Our Riley," Riley spun back, voice breaking mid-shout. "Stay down. I'm right here." Morgan blinked, pain carving through her body, and whispered something only Riley could hear. "Don't die." Riley's expression shattered. She turned back toward the attackers and fired with a fury Alina had never seen in her life. 2 silhouettes collapsed. A third returned fire. Riley dove behind an outcropping of stone, breathing hard, every muscle tight with desperation. "Riley!" Alina shouted. "Get in.
"Now."
Riley sprinted back to the vehicle, diving inside as Alina hit the gas, the vehicle launching forward violently. Bullets ricocheted off the hull. Riley grabbed Morgan again, pulling her into her lap, shielding her with her entire body. "I've got you," Riley whispered against Morgan's hair. "I've got you.
"I've got you."
Alina skidded the vehicle onto a side road, the trees blurring past in streaks of black and white. Riley pressed a hand to Morgan's cheek. "Open your eyes," she whispered.
"Please."
"Please, sweetheart. Open your eyes." Morgan's lashes fluttered. Barely. Her lips parted. "Our Riley." Riley leaned closer, her forehead almost touching Morgan's again. "I'm here." "Don't leave," Morgan breathed. Riley broke. She kissed Morgan's temple again, fierce and desperate. "Never," she whispered. "I'm not leaving. I swear it. I swear on my life." Alina glanced back, her voice sharp. "Hold her steady. We're almost at the clinic." Riley tightened her grip, emotions spilling through her voice in a way she had never allowed before. "Stay with me, Morgan. I love you. Stay with me." Morgan exhaled, a soft, fragile sound, a sound that terrified Riley because she couldn't tell if it meant relief or goodbye. Riley burst through the clinic doors with Morgan limp in her arms, shouting for help before her boots even hit the polished floor. The hidden medical facility, buried beneath layers of false storefronts and encrypted access points, sprang instantly to life. Lights blazed on. Automated scanners activated, and 2 medics in black scrubs sprinted toward her with a gurney. "She's losing blood," Riley barked, voice trembling, breath frantic. "Shallow puncture to the left side, blade entry at an angle. She needs transfusion, sealant, sedation. Just help her." She didn't realize she was yelling until the medic touched her shoulder and said, "We need you to put her down." Riley's grip tightened violently. "No, ma'am." "No." Riley snarled, pulling Morgan closer. It took Alina placing a soft but firm hand on Riley's back for Riley to finally loosen her hold, just enough for the medics to lift Morgan from her arms. The instant Morgan's body left Riley's embrace, something in Riley's chest cracked open, like her ribs were splintering from the inside. She followed the gurney down the hall, refusing to let the medics out of her sight. Morgan's head slumped sideways, her hair falling over her face, her skin too pale, too cold. Riley reached out, brushing the strands back behind Morgan's ear. "I'm right here," Riley whispered. "I'm still with you." One of the medics pushed Riley back gently. "We need space." "You get all the space in the world," Riley growled. As long as I can still see her.
No, the medic said.
You can't be in the room during surgery. Riley's expression went feral. If you shut that door on me, I swear I will break it down. Alina stepped between them, grabbing Riley's shoulders. Riley, breathe. Riley shook her head violently.
No.
No, I can't. I can't just let her go. What if she? Her breath broke. Alina tightened her hands, voice softer. She needs the surgeons, not you. But when she wakes up, she'll need you. So let them work. Riley's entire body shook, muscles trembling, chest rising in rapid, uneven breaths. She looked through the glass window of the surgical chamber, watching as the medical team slid Morgan under the bright white lights, attaching monitors to her chest, inserting 4 lines, prepping instruments. Morgan looked impossibly small on the surgical table.
Small.
Vulnerable. Hurt because she chose to save Riley instead of herself. Riley pressed both hands against the glass, breath fogging the surface. Don't die, she whispered. Don't you dare die on me. The medics closed the blinds. The metal shutters sealed the window with a hiss, closing Riley off from the only thing she cared about in the world. Riley dropped to her knees. The silence hit her like a fist to the throat. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she pressed them over her face, her breaths coming in harsh, uneven gasps. She's going to make it, Alina said softly. She's strong. Riley shook her head, staring blankly at the sealed surgical door. She shouldn't have been hurt, Riley rasped. I failed her. Alina sighed. Riley, I did. Riley snapped, voice cracking. I was supposed to protect her. That was my job. My only job. You can't predict everything, Alina said. Riley's laugh was hollow, broken. I'm trained to. I'm trained to read every angle, every threat, every possible outcome. And I didn't see this one coming. Her hands clenched uselessly. I let someone get close enough to hurt her. Alina kneeled beside her. That someone was Evelyn Hale. None of us expected her to be that unhinged. I should've, Riley whispered. After Catherine, after the footage, after the threats, I should've known someone else was behind it. I should've, she swallowed hard. Morgan trusted me. And now she's lying in there because of me. Alina hesitated, then said quietly, No. She's lying in there because she loves you. Riley's breath caught. Don't say that.
Why?
Because it makes everything worse. Does it? Yes. Riley pressed her fists to her forehead, shaking. If she dies, it'll be because I let her get close enough to care. Because she stepped in front of me. Alina's voice softened. Riley, she didn't step in front of you because she was reckless. She did it because losing you terrified her more than dying. Riley squeezed her eyes shut, tears slipping out against her will. I don't deserve that. She thinks you do. Riley's voice cracked into a whisper. What if she never wakes up? Alina didn't answer, because there wasn't a comforting lie she could offer. Riley stood abruptly. I'm going after Evelyn. Alina blinked. Now. Yes. Riley, if you walk out that door, I'm not leaving Morgan. But you just said... Riley shook her head, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I'm not leaving her for good. I'm not abandoning her. She looked through the sealed window, even though she could see nothing behind the metal blinds. But I can't sit here doing nothing while the woman who tried to kill her is somewhere out there planning the next attack. Alina folded her arms. What exactly are you going to do? Riley's eyes hardened, ice forming beneath the grief. End this. Alina studied her carefully. You're planning to kill Evelyn. If she forces my hand, Riley said, jaw tightening. And she will. Morgan wouldn't want. Morgan, Riley interrupted, would have died tonight if I hadn't fought back. And Evelyn won't stop. She's obsessed. She's trained. She's desperate. Riley turned toward the exit. And I'm going to make sure she never comes near Morgan again. Alina blocked her path. You're in no condition to fight. You're still bleeding. I don't care. You can't protect her if you're dead, Riley. Riley froze. The words cut through her like a blade. Slowly, she sank onto the bench against the wall, burying her face in her hands again. "I'm scared," Riley whispered, voice shaking. "I'm so damn scared, Alina." "Of what?" "Of losing her before I ever get to hear her say something back." A heavy silence filled the hallway. Then a sound.
Soft.
Broken. Muffled. Riley's head snapped up. It came from the intercom feed. The surgical room mic was accidentally open. And through the static, through the distant echo, one weak, fragile whisper drifted into the hall. Riley." Riley surged to her feet, so fast the bench slammed backward into the wall. "Morgan." Alina's eyes widened. "That's impossible," she sedated. But the voice came again, a faint breath between worlds. "Riley, don't go." Riley pressed her trembling hands against the intercom panel. "I'm here," she whispered, voice shaking violently. "I'm not going anywhere." Behind the blinds, machines beeped, footsteps shuffled. The surgical team worked frantically, but the only sound Riley heard was Morgan whispering for her. Whispering her name like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Whispering like she knew Riley was about to walk away. Alina's voice softened. "You need to stay, Riley." Riley pushed her forehead against the door, breath breaking. "I will," she whispered. "I'm staying." And for the first time since the attack, Riley let hope sink its claws into her chest. Because if Morgan was fighting to say her name, then she was still fighting to live. Morgan woke to a world made of pain and softness, pain in her side, a burning pulse radiating upward through her ribs, and softness in the pressure of a warm hand holding hers like it was the only anchor keeping her tethered to the living. She blinked slowly, vision blurry at first, then sharpening around the edges. A dim medical light illuminated a sterile ceiling above her, but the shadows around her were gentle, not hostile.
Safe.
And then she felt it. Heat, the brush of a thumb stroking her knuckles. She turned her head, every movement heavy and slow, and saw Riley sitting at her bedside. Riley looked broken. Not physically, though her own shoulder was bandaged, her skin bruised, her hair messy and wild, but emotionally, devastated, exhausted, fiercely present. Riley hadn't moved from that chair for hours. Morgan could see it in every line of her body. Eyes red,
Posture rigid.
hands trembling from equal parts adrenaline, fear, and relief. When Riley saw Morgan's eyes open, something inside her cracked open entirely. "Morgan." Riley breathed, like the name had been trapped inside her chest for hours and finally escaped. Morgan swallowed, throat dry, voice barely a whisper. You stayed." Riley let out a breath that trembled from the deepest part of her. "Of course I stayed. There was never a universe where I wouldn't." Morgan tried to shift, winced, and Riley immediately placed a careful hand against her arm. Hey, no moving. You're still healing." Morgan closed her eyes for a second, breathing slowly. Did I die?" Riley's breath hitched sharply. "Don't say that." "Feels like it," Morgan murmured. Riley exhaled shakily. "You scared the hell out of me, you know that?" Morgan forced her eyes open again. Riley looked like she'd aged 10 years in the last few hours. "Sorry," she whispered. "I guess that's becoming a pattern." Riley's lips quivered, a humorless, heartbroken almost laugh escaping her. "That is not a funny joke." Morgan blinked at her. Riley looked away for a second, pressing the heel of her hand against her eyes. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "I thought you were going to die in my arms." "But I didn't," Morgan murmured. "I'm here." Riley nodded, but barely. Her hand tightened around Morgan's. "Yeah, you're here." Morgan studied her face. Every bruise, every smudge of dried blood, every tremor in Riley's fingers. You fought for me." Riley's jaw flexed. "I always will." "Why?" Morgan whispered. Riley went still, utterly, completely still. She lowered her hand from her eyes, looked straight at Morgan, and the truth in her expression was raw enough to slice through steel. "Because I love you." Morgan's breath caught. The words hit her like a physical force. No hesitation. No armor. No walls. Riley didn't flinch. "I love you," she repeated, voice breaking. I don't know when it happened. Maybe the first night I protected you. Maybe the first time you yelled at me. Maybe the first time you looked at me like I wasn't just a weapon you hired. She swallowed hard. But I know it now. And I'm done pretending. Morgan's eyes filled with tears she didn't feel strong enough to stop. Riley, you don't have to say anything, Riley whispered quickly. Not now. Not while you're hurting. I just need you to know. I need you to hear it while you're awake. I need you to remember it. Morgan squeezed her hand weakly. I do remember, she whispered. I remember hearing you. Riley froze. You what? Morgan's voice trembled. The intercom. When I was half out. I heard you say my name. I heard you say you loved me. Riley's face flushed with shock and grief and relief all tangled into one expression that undid her completely. I wasn't supposed to say it like that, Riley said softly. I wanted to say it when you were safe. Awake. Not bleeding out in my arms. Morgan managed a small, weak smile. It was still perfect. Riley cupped Morgan's cheek, thumb trembling against her skin. You scared me so much. You scare me too, Morgan whispered. Out there. Fighting those men. You could have died. Riley let out a sharp, pained sound. I don't care about dying. I do, Morgan said firmly, surprising both of them with the strength in her voice. Riley froze. Morgan continued, eyes locked onto hers. I care. I care if something happens to you. I care more than I should. Riley leaned closer, unable to stop herself, their foreheads nearly touching. Morgan, I love you too, Morgan whispered. Riley inhaled sharply like she'd been punched. Say it again. I love you, Morgan repeated softly. Even if it terrifies me. Even if I tried to bury it. I love you. Riley closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. Thank you, she whispered, for staying alive long enough to say it. Morgan laughed weakly, then winced again. Riley instantly shifted, overly alert. Okay, no laughing. Laughing is banned. You can't ban laughing, Morgan whispered. Watch me, Riley murmured. Their soft moment hung between them like warm breath in cold air, fragile, trembling, full of something new and dangerous and beautiful. But then, the lights flickered. Riley jerked her head up. Alina? She was already at the door, gun drawn before her brain had finished registering the shift in the electricity. A soft hiss echoed from the ventilation ducts. Riley swore under her breath and took a defensive stance near Morgan's bed. Alina, status? Alina's voice came through the intercom, tense. We've got a breach. Small. One-person signature. South corridor. Riley's blood went ice-cold. It's her. Morgan's heart spiked, monitors beeping frantically. Riley, I'm not leaving you, Riley said fiercely, positioning herself between Morgan and the door. But Alina shouted over the intercom. Riley, she's not heading toward you. Then where? Riley froze. The realization hit both women at the same moment. The clinic wasn't the true target. It was them. And Evelyn Hale was coming to finish what she started, but not by killing Morgan. By taking something else. Alina's voice cut through the hallway in a sharp alarm. Riley, she's here for you. The moment Alina's voice crackled through the intercom, Riley, she's here for you. The air in the clinic transformed. The temperature seemed to drop, the fluorescent lights humming with a sharp, metallic buzz that warned of something far worse than an intrusion. Riley's body reacted before her mind did. She stepped farther in front of Morgan, gun raised, her posture rigid and prepared to kill or die in a heartbeat. Morgan struggled to push herself up, pain tearing through her side, but she refused to lie helpless while the woman she loved became a target. Riley, Morgan rasped, reaching out. Don't, you can't fight her alone. I'm not fighting her alone, Riley said, eyes locked on the door. I'm fighting her between us. The lock clicked. A soft, deliberate sound, like fingers tapping a glass coffin. The door opened. Evelyn Hale stepped into the room with the calm grace of someone walking into a dinner party rather than a high-security medical facility. Her dark hair was braided behind her shoulders, her face streaked with the faintest smear of dried blood from her fight with Riley earlier. Her eyes, cold and merciless, locked onto Riley first, then slid past her toward Morgan with a look that made Riley's grip tighten on her gun. "Step away from her," Riley growled.
Now.
Evelyn didn't even blink. "I'm not here to hurt Morgan," she said. "If I wanted her dead, you wouldn't have gotten her to surgery on time." Riley's jaw clenched. "Then what the hell do you want?" Evelyn's gaze softened, unexpectedly, disturbingly. "You." Morgan's heart stopped. "No," Morgan whispered, voice weak but steel-edged. "No, you're not taking her." Evelyn ignored her. She took a slow step forward, hands at her sides, no weapons drawn, but Riley didn't budge. "You think this is about revenge," Evelyn said quietly. "You think I'm obsessed with punishing Morgan. You think this is about Catherine's downfall." She tilted her head. But that wasn't the whole truth. Riley's eyes narrowed. "Then what is the truth?" Evelyn's smile was faint and heartbreakingly tragic. "Catherine loved you." Riley blinked, stunned. "What?" Evelyn nodded once. "She loved you, Riley Carter. She loved you more than she ever loved the company, the job, or any power she thought she wanted. You were her best agent, her partner, the only person she trusted. And when Morgan exposed her, Catherine came home to me broken." Riley swallowed hard, chest tightening painfully. "Catherine betrayed Morgan," Riley said, voice low. "She stole from the company. She almost tanked the board. She did it because she panicked," Evelyn snapped. "Because she knew Morgan was going to fire her. Because she was desperate. She told me everything, Riley. Everything. Right before she died, because you refused to reconcile with her." The words hit Riley like a knife. Morgan stared at her, breath catching. "Riley," Evelyn continued, voice trembling with years of buried fury. "Catherine adored you. Even after everything. She waited for you. She begged you. And you left her." Riley's voice cracked. "We weren't together. Catherine and I, we were partners, yes, but not like that. She cared about me. I cared about her. But I didn't love her." Evelyn's nostrils flared. "She did." Riley's throat tightened with something close to regret, but not guilt. "That doesn't change the fact that she made her choices." Evelyn stepped closer, voice lowering. "And so did you." Her eyes hardened. "You chose her." She glanced at Morgan. "The Ice Queen. The woman Catherine said you'd never look at twice." Morgan bristled but stayed silent, watching, thinking, fighting the pain in her side to understand what Evelyn was really saying. "This isn't about Morgan," Evelyn whispered. "It's about you. It's always been about you." Riley lifted the gun higher. "You are out of your mind if you think I would ever go with you." Evelyn's smile didn't falter. "I know you won't. That's why I came here to give you something." Riley froze. Morgan stared. Evelyn reached into her coat. Riley aimed, ready to fire, but Evelyn only pulled out a small silver drive. "This," she said softly, "is everything Catherine kept on Morgan. Every email, every strategy, every truth Catherine thought might save her. She wanted you to have it." She placed the drive on the counter near the medical supplies. "I thought punishing Morgan would fix the hole Catherine left in me. I thought taking everything from her would make me feel like I was giving Catherine justice." She shook her head slowly. "But I see it now. Catherine didn't want revenge." Evelyn's voice broke. "Catherine wanted you happy." Riley's gun wavered. Just a fraction. Morgan watched Riley's expression shift. Shock, grief, realization, guilt, love, all crashing at once. Evelyn took one step back. "I'm done," she whispered. "I'm finished fighting ghosts." Riley lowered the gun slightly. "Then leave." Evelyn nodded. But before she turned, she looked directly at Morgan. "Don't waste what Catherine never got." Morgan swallowed, heart pounding. "I won't." Evelyn's gaze moved one last time to Riley. "Take care of her." Riley didn't respond with words, but her stance, her trembling breath, said everything. Evelyn stepped out of the room. Alina appeared seconds later, breathless, gun drawn. "Is she gone?" Riley nodded.
Yeah.
Then she turned back to Morgan, and the second their eyes met, the world realigned. Riley crossed the room in 3 steps and sat on the edge of the bed, careful but desperate, her hands shaking as she cupped Morgan's face. Are you okay? Morgan let out a breathy laugh. I've been better. Riley leaned their foreheads together.
She's gone.
She won't touch you again. Morgan lifted a weak hand and touched Riley's cheek. She wasn't here to kill me. I know, Riley whispered. She wanted you. But I didn't want her. Riley whispered back, voice breaking. I want you. Morgan's lips parted. Riley kissed her, slow, warm, trembling, careful of her injuries, but full of all the fear, relief, and love she had held back for so long. Morgan melted into it, her fingers curling weakly around Riley's shirt, pulling her closer despite the pain. Riley rested her forehead against Morgan's again when they parted. You're mine, Riley whispered. If you want to be. I do, Morgan breathed. I want you. Only you. Riley exhaled shakily, eyes shining. Then I'm yours. Morgan smiled softly. Finally. Riley laughed, a sound raw and full of life, and kissed her again, deeper this time, more certain. Morgan winced slightly, but Riley pulled back instantly. Sorry, too much? Never too much, Morgan murmured. Just be gentle. I'll always be gentle with you, Riley whispered, brushing a thumb across her cheek. And I'll always fight for you. Morgan closed her eyes, letting the warmth of Riley's words sink into her bones. Just stay, Morgan murmured. Don't leave. Riley climbed carefully onto the bed, lying beside her, pulling Morgan into her arms with infinite tenderness. I'm not going anywhere, Riley whispered into her hair. Not now. Not ever. Morgan rested her head against Riley's chest, listening to her heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. Riley. Yeah. I love you. Riley tightened her arms around her. I love you more. The clinic lights dimmed, the danger gone. The ghosts finally laid to rest. For the first time since the night their worlds collided, Morgan felt safe. And Riley, holding the woman she once swore she'd never fall for, felt whole. 2 hearts that were never meant to meet had found each other in the fire, and neither one would ever let go again.